We've done satellite conferences like this for 15 years, and this is probably the most important one we've ever done. I want to deliver a very direct message today. Our auto category is changing so quickly that we have to change the way we deal with it. And if we fail, the impact on our revenue and our business is significant. Now, those are strong words. So why am I being so direct? Well, just consider this. Just in the last week, Ford has announced a new plan to require dealers to put 50% of their co-op money in digital by the middle of next year. That's part of a consistent pattern of manufacturers telling their dealers to reduce the spend in traditional media. Dealers are already spending less and less in traditional media. That's us, as they move more and more to digital. But the digital they're moving to is not our digital. 2 weeks ago, a cable auto sales manager told me about his experience at last month's digital dealer conference. His number one takeaway: how many different things dealers are being bombarded by in the digital space. And everyone from Google to Facebook is doing the same thing we are. They're targeting dealers because that's where the money is.
Today, Facebook has partnered with Polk to provide vehicle ownership data in relation to Facebook account owners. So about half of the vehicles that are currently being driven today are mapped to someone's Facebook account, which has tremendous reach.
So because of the dealers' move to embrace digital, we have something going on that has never happened before in our business in the last 50 years. The car business is setting sales records, but our advertising from car dealers, while good, in some markets really good, certainly isn't a record. So what's happening? Well, think of it this way. 10 years ago, a dealer had two doors to their business. They had a front door, and they had a phone door. And that was how their customers arrived. But today, there's a new door, the web door. And a massive percentage of customers are now going to the dealership through that door. The percentage of customers doing much of their shopping online is so high, some even wonder, what is the future of the traditional showroom?
Where the industry is going is more of the virtual showroom floor. West Coast is already there. New York, Chicago, Denver, they're there. Midwest is not there yet. Even Texas is not there yet. But a lot of consumers are relying now on this internet as the Bible when they go to get data and information instead of coming to the dealer. Sometimes they don't like the process, sometimes they ain't got the time, and they want chat, and they want their information quick, and they want it honestly, and they want it to be relevant.
So a dealer thinks, hey, I'll just spend more and more of my money, my ad dollars, targeting people as they're getting closer to that web door. Last week, I had this brought home to me big time. A dealer I know has built his business with a combination of cable and TV, and it's been great for him. But last week, he's in a meeting with his reps, and he's talking about whether or not he needs to continue to do that anymore. He's considering dropping the very thing, us, that has made him successful. Have you had a conversation like that in your market? If you haven't, I promise you, you will. Because that's a story I hear almost every week. One market we work with has met their auto revenue goal for the year, but they have three major dealer groups who have either cut spending completely or have cut it back dramatically. Pat Norris, a senior consultant on our Jim Doyle and Associates team, is a former car dealer, and you'll spend a lot of time with Pat in the next couple of hours. A few months ago, Pat said to me, Jim, when dealers are meeting to talk about their marketing, we, meaning us, cable and TV, are just a footnote. And I don't know about you, but that scares the crap out of me. Now, of course, we have lots of dealers who love us, but I'm nervous about the trend, and I'm nervous about your dealer going to some national conference or listening to some so-called expert and coming back to you. And when we started to plan this conference, I thought the goal was to help us sell more digital to car dealers. And yep, that's really important. But after the last few months and after talking to so many of you and to dealers all over the country, I think there's an even more important mission for today's conference. How do we protect and grow our core business? Protecting and growing our core and selling more of our digital to dealers, that's what the next 2 hours are all about. To help us really understand this new digital dealer, we've interviewed more people for this conference than we ever have before for a satellite conference. We went to two of the biggest consultants to dealers, smart people who have the ear of your dealers. Jim Ziegler is one of them. In the car business, between his industry magazine columns, his social media presence, and his internet battle plan conferences, he has a loud megaphone. Brian Pash runs PCG Consulting. He's all over the Google and internet marketing space for dealers. We also wanted to spend some time focused on mobile, so Derek DiCarlo from LSN Mobile is our expert on that. And we talked to a lot of smart dealers in all size markets. Jim Boyle, that's Boyle, not Doyle, is a Toyota dealer in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Troy Duhan runs the Premier Auto Group. They own 7 stores in California and 6 in New Orleans. A very smart guy. Jeff Gherkin runs a BMW store in San Diego. Courtney Cole, a partner in Hare Chevrolet in Indianapolis, which is a massive Chevy store. And you'll meet Cleveland dealer Bill Doherty. He's built one of the highest volume Kia dealers in the United States with a combination of digital and traditional media. As you'll see, all of these folks are very, very smart, and they have strong opinions.
Do you own the first page of Google? Or is your turf being stolen by Cars.com, Autotrader.com, the biggest villain that showed up lately, CarGurus.com? Terrible people, my opinion. No, don't edit out my opinion, Car Gurus. Anyway, you know, Car Gurus, bad people, my opinion.
So let's get started. Tom Ray and Pat Norris are standing by to help me, as is the Executive VP and COO of Jim Doyle & Associates, John Hannon, who's here to keep us on track and take care of some business. John?
Thank you, Jim, and welcome everyone. The next few hours are going to be jam-packed with huge opportunities in a category in which we are not getting our fair share of revenue. Before we begin, I want to extend a special thanks to the cable companies, TV groups, and state broadcast associations who are supporting this conference. Their names are on the screen now, and we are so very grateful for their participation. Now, some housekeeping notes. For the engineers out there, we'll take a break at approximately the 60 to 70-minute mark of today's program. That'll give you an opportunity to change tapes. And this year, we're taking a different approach to the takeout video. The most powerful sound bites and quotes have been assembled for you to download for use in your customized presentations. The download will be available right after today's broadcast, and we'll have more on the link and password for this video later in the show. For those of you who stay in the room during our 10-minute intermission, we'll play an excerpt from TV Sales.101. We released TV Sales.101 last year and have been humbled with the positive response to the sales training program. It's now cleared in almost 80% of the U.S. and recently in Canada. If this is already in your organization, congratulations and thank you. If not, please make sure to spend a few minutes viewing our sample clip at the intermission. I'm confident you'll enjoy it. We welcome your questions for our Q&A sessions today. You can send your questions by email to digitaldealer@jimdoyle.com. That's digitaldealer@jimdoyle.com. Or you can call 1-888-710-7234. That's 1-888-710-7234. And of course, we'd love to see a picture of your group watching this conference. Take out your smartphones, get a good picture, and post it with the name of your company to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Jim Doyle & Associates. And we're also tweeting at TV Jim Doyle. The hashtag for this program is Cracking the Code. Your presenters today are Jim Doyle, Tom Ray, and Pat Norris. In 1992, Jim developed the upgrade selling process and started Jim Doyle & Associates. This year, Jim, Tom Ray, and myself, and 10 senior consultants will make over 4,300 sales calls across America. Tom Ray is an executive vice president of Jim Doyle & Associates. After years in traditional media, Tom was named director of sales for LogicalSolutions.net, an internet development hosting and marketing company. And then, in 2006, Tom joined Jim Doyle & Associates. Your third presenter today is Pat Norris. Prior to joining our company, Pat was the managing partner of the Norris Auto Group. He was the recipient of the 2004 Time Magazine Quality Dealer Award. As a dealer, Pat credits the Jim Doyle process with growing his business over 25%. After he sold his dealerships, Pat believed so much in the Jim Doyle & Associates marketing philosophies that he joined our company. Pat represented Jim Doyle & Associates earlier this year at the Auto Dealer Digital Confab in Houston. So the housekeeping is all done, and it's time to get started. At Jim Doyle & Associates, we believe that training without action is entertainment. So to load you with lots of actionable ideas, here's Jim Doyle.
Hey, thank you, John, and thanks to all of you and to our corporate sponsors for being part of this today. Dan Burris is this amazing futurist, and he talks about when you don't know what's going to happen in the future, focus on what you do know. And we do know certain things. First of all, it's not dealers that are driving this change. It's customers. Dealers would do, bowling sheets if they thought all of their customers were reading bowling sheets. They will chase customers, and as customers move, that's the bottom line. For us, that means that denial is fatal. If we pretend the world's not changing when everything around us is, that has serious implications on our business. We also know, as we put this together, that everyone watching today has a different suite of digital products. It would be impossible for us to talk about every product that every one of you offer, because each of you and your companies has a different approach to the marketplace. But our goal in this first section is to give you some tools to uncover the digital opportunities in a dealership, and in the process, give you some very powerful insights about how to position them to your dealer. And I'm excited to have as my partner in this, Tom Ray. And Tom, I should tell just a very quick story about Tom. At the September NAB conference, Tom was introduced to the audience by one of our clients, our company's clients, as the best sales trainer in America. As the best sales trainer in America. Now, I have two reactions to this. Obviously, as someone who's built the company, my first reaction is, oh man, that is so cool, and what an honor for Tom. And then I thought, well, damn, I'm the best sales trainer in the country. But he has a passion for our business, for our product, and for our clients. And so, Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much. I wrote that introduction, so there we go. Well, Jim, you know what? Throughout the preparations for this conference, we came across a lot of what we called aha moments, a lot of things that really, kind of knocked our socks off. And we're going to share those with you throughout the course of the day today. And the first aha moment that we want to address is what we're calling the gap. Simply, dealers want media partners to bring good ideas. That's what they all told us. Well, we're trying to bring those dealers those good ideas, and the problem is they're not letting us in, oftentimes. Listen, here's one of the biggest dealer consultants in the country. He calls himself the Alpha Dog. Listen to Jim Ziegler here.
I will guarantee you that if I'm talking to an audience of people that sell advertising to businesses, they screen your calls. Once they find out it's you, they hide from you. You got their cell number, doesn't matter. They got caller ID. And the reason for this is because every time you call them, you're trying to sell them something.
Well, clearly there's this gap, this disconnect, a breakdown between the dealer and us, their media partner. This is what we learned. Dealers don't give us credit. They don't give us credit for knowing their business. They all said, we wish you knew our business better. Oftentimes, they didn't even give us credit for knowing our own business, and that's unfortunate. And they certainly didn't give us credit for bringing ideas and solutions. Listen to what dealers and experts had to say about us. We asked Bill Doherty. Now, here's one of the most successful Kia dealers in the country, and we asked him if he's ever been approached by his media partners for digital. Here's his answer.
They might have. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think they concentrate on the core product, which is either television or radio, but I cannot sit here and... The honest answer is I don't know.
I have friends of mine in Cleveland who are watching at this very second going, because they know how many times they've tried to bring a digital solution to Bill, but in his perception, he hasn't bought anything that's relevant, hasn't thought that there's anything that's relevant. My colleague in the National Speakers Association, Tony Alexandra, talks about something he calls the need gap. And the need gap is the difference between where the customer is today and where they need or want to be. And he has a great line. He says, if there's no need gap, there's no sale. And so here's the challenge. For the most part, dealers don't see our digital products as relevant, especially because almost everything we bring to them, Now there's a custom industry solution that the dealers are just for the auto industry.
Well, honestly, I would say that I've not heard many dealers praise their traditional media outlet for bringing innovations to digital media, social media, or digital advertising.
So dealers want to work with smart marketers who bring them ideas. Typically, however, we're not thought of as the digital experts, and we're trying to bring them ideas and we can't get through. And if we do, we're making the mistake of trying to show those dealers how smart we are. Here again is dealer expert Jim Ziegler.
The automobile dealers I know do not want to be treated like they're stupid. And so many people come in today condescending. I see so many reps from so many vendors, including the TV people, the radio people, the newspaper people, that come in condescending. Car dealers are some of the most savvy internet marketers in the country. A lot of people would guess we're just walking out of the cave with our club to go get food for the day. But no, honestly, we are very advanced. And you'd be amazed how many people come in and talk down to us. That's the biggest complaint car dealers have with vendors of all types, talking down to us, as if we're stupid, as if we don't know. And we're pretty savvy marketers, the truth be known. You know?
We had a lot of fun talking to Jim Ziegler. So, Jim, there's this gap, this disconnect between dealers and us, their media partners.
Yeah, and you know, I think today what we're going to do is just give everybody ideas, tactics, strategies to try and bridge that gap. And if you say, why is there a gap? It always comes back to three things. Number one, we have absolutely got to be talking to the right person. Number two, we've got to know what their priorities are. And number three, we need to be customer focused and not product focused, solution oriented and not package oriented. And you know, if there's a critical message for today, it would be, how do you get to the decision maker? Later on, you're going to hear from some of these dealers. And what they say, listen to what they say, because I've been working with dealers for a lot of years, and I can tell you, I know three things absolutely. Number one is agencies make recommendations. Now, they don't make final decisions. The degree to which the agency and the dealer have a partner may determine how successful those recommendations are, but agencies are primarily implementing strategy, and usually that strategy is determined at the dealer level. It is the dealer who decides. Here's Bill Doherty.
My agency puts together a buy, and this is what's recommended, and clearly I make every decision. The agency does not make the decision. They do a great job at compiling the information and making the recommendation, but it starts and ends with me. And you know, after a while, you develop a relationship and a rapport, and you know what each other comes to expect. So, but clearly they're not the ones making the decisions. And sometimes we can say no on Tuesday, and on Wednesday we're asking you where you at. We want to do something.
The ad agency, they're going to tell you all their suggestions, and then we just okay it or don't okay it.
You know, is there any doubt to you who is really in charge of this? That's why if there was a message that is consistent in this category, it's how important it is for your organization to build a top-level relationship. There's all kinds of ways to do that, but one of the things that will become increasingly important in this category is deploying our generals, our general sales manager, our general manager, to try to have that high-level relationship. As dealers now own more and more stores, they become more and more isolated from the day-to-day. The days of being able to walk in and see a dealer, relatively rare today. If you don't have a relationship, and sometimes it's not the AE who's going to get that relationship, it might be somebody at the highest level. You know, for the general managers who are in the room watching this today, this is so important if we're going to protect this category. Tom?
Yeah, Jim, here's another aha moment for us in preparing for this event. What we did learn when you finally can get to the dealers is they don't want a capabilities pitch. They don't want a capabilities pitch, at least not initially. You're going to be more effective in your efforts if you come in with specific ideas and solutions. So in other words, I'd like to schedule a meeting to show you all the cool new stuff that we have is far less effective than a very direct, we have an idea to help drive traffic through your service bays that we have seen worked in our other markets. So again, it's less about capabilities pitches and more about bringing specific ideas.
You know, that was clearly a message that we heard as we talked to dealers. This idea of doing this presentation where we just throw up with everything that we've got is just, I mean, that's a flawed concept. You know, one of my very first sales trainers, if I had a first sales job, it was in college, and I was working as a summer replacement in a chain of jewelry stores, and they would teach us that anytime you were selling an engagement ring, you would never put a second ring in front of the customer. So if they didn't like that one, put it back in the case and take one and put it back. And I've always thought that's so important in sales. If we go into these digital meetings and we say, you know, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, I think that's a prescription for disaster. It's so important to be customer focused. So not a capabilities pitch. So how do you become customer focused? Well, it's through the power of diagnosis. But this is not old school diagnosis. For years, I trained, you know, go ask them how long they've had their business and, you know, how long have they been at this location. Wrong. We're talking about a fairly specific process, digital diagnosis, that you do before you ever meet with the dealers. You know, I've been sharing in our live seminars for a year or so that the wing it days are over. Today's effective sales rep is much more prepared. And this in-depth digital diagnosis is part of that preparation. Here's Tom, who's going to launch some specifics about what are the things that we're suggesting.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So what we're calling this is digital diagnosis. 5 areas to explore before you ever show up at the dealership. And digital diagnosis starts with the 800-pound gorilla, Google.
The world of electronic marketing, everything you do is to impress Google. I mean, that's what everybody is trying to get to the first page. The second page of Google, you're invisible. If you're not on the first page, you are totally invisible on Google. You're not going to be found.
Oh, hang on a minute. What we're not talking about is Googling the dealer name to see what pops up. This isn't 2005. What we're going to do is share with you a couple of very specific tactics that you can execute using Google to help get good dealer intel. First, we're going to check and see how well the dealer is doing with their SEO and SEM campaigns. Here's Jim Ziegler again.
I'm inviting everybody in this audience to start Googling your own dealers. Not the name of the dealership, but what they sell, what city they're in, and what make of car and model of car. Toyota, Camry, Louisville, Kentucky. That's the only thing put in Google. Toyota, Camry, Louisville, Kentucky. Does Oxmoor Toyota show up first, or does CarGurus.com, Cars.com, AutoTrader, do all these vendors, Carfax? Carfax, one of the biggest villains in the world. There's a $50 million lawsuit working on those people right now because they disparage car dealers. I mean, this is an example of we're paying Carfax big money, and they run commercials that tell the consumers that car dealers are stupid crooks. And you would be absolutely screwed in this deal if the little cartoon fox didn't jump out and rat you out to the consumer. I mean, here we got a vendor taking money from us to disparage us.
Fun guy, Jim Ziegler. So we did this. We Googled Chevy, Impala, Tampa. And look what we found. All these sites appear in the natural rankings before any Chevy dealer. CarGurus.com, Autos.yahoo.com, AutoTrader.com. The Tampa dealers are getting crushed by the vendors, those third-party lead providers, in search, Jim.
You know, this for me was, you're talking about aha moments. This for me was an aha moment, and it keeps going. It gets worse. because we want you to also use Google to take a look at the dealer's inventory to see where it's being shown. And we're gonna give you the reason for this as we go a little bit further. But here's what you do. Well, let's listen to Jim Ziegler again.
I suggest that you put in the VIN number of any used car that an auto dealer has on their website. Just go to the dealer's website and pick one of the oldest units in stock's VIN number. Put that VIN number, the vehicle identification number, into Google. And it'll show you every website that VIN number is on. Sometimes 40, 50, 60, 70 websites that dealer did not contract with. People that he doesn't even know, she doesn't even know. Where Cars.com or somebody like Cars.com has put their inventory on other sites. And these other sites are actively marketing away from that dealer.
So I just said, I got to try this. So I went to Google, went to a Ford dealer in the Sarasota market, went on their site, looked at their used car inventory, and yeah, every one of the VIN numbers is listed in their used car inventory. Cut and paste, put it into Google, and well, look who else showed up. I mean, they had Autos, AOL.com, Kelley Blue Book, Get Auto, Carfax, AutoCheck, 10 other sites. And you know what? It's a really good bet that your dealer doesn't even know that his inventory is on these sites. Here's what's happened. They probably have bought something from a third-party leads provider who has farmed these leads out to these other sites. We'll talk about the implications of that for the dealer, but number one, it really damages the dealer. You would think, gosh, well, more is better. Well, no, not if one of the two or three or four of the sites is telling the customer your car, in other words, your car that you paid the original site for, is overpriced. That wouldn't make you feel especially great. They're telling people this is a good deal. This is not a good deal. So dealers are obsessed with Google, and these tactics can give you some ideas about how to, if you happen to sell Google AdWords, which I know a bunch of people watching today do, this is something you need to hear. Tom?
Yeah, you know, Jim, there's a very interesting issue that's brewing. The manufacturers have identified a few select digital agencies that are now allowed to spend the dealer co-op money on digital campaigns on behalf of the dealer. Let's listen to Brian Pash explain how this phenomenon has created some, what he calls, unintended consequences.
If 3 different agencies were working with 3 Chevrolet dealers in a small market, each would be using their own research, their own keyword optimization strategies to place the dealer in the best optimal position to create a conversion. Now, dealers consider a conversion either an email lead or a phone call. When one vendor is doing AdWords for all 3 dealers, in many cases they're using the same templates, the same keyword strategies, the same bidding strategies for all 3. And so you can imagine, for example, 3 Chevy dealers in a Chicago market. If one vendor is doing all the Chevy dealers in Chicago, well, there's some doubt that dealers have, could they just be bidding against themselves and raising the costs, where maybe a boutique agency or a broadcast solution could say, hey, we're bringing a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of analysis, a different keyword strategy to find the holes where your competitors are not in.
So we asked Brian if he felt that this manufacturer-approved agency strategy, was that driving up PPC rates? Listen to what he said.
Again, I don't want to say that AdWords prices across the country have doubled or tripled in 3 years. There are some markets where, you know, maybe the AdWords clicks are up 20, 30, or 40%. But the bigger message is by forcing or encouraging financially dealers to use AdWords and then only limiting their choices to 1 or 2 companies, you can understand how dealers might feel that they're not getting the best customized or personalized strategy for their dealership.
Wow, this could be a huge opportunity for us. But if you listen to Brian Pash, what he really believes is it's that integrated solution that makes the most sense. Here's Brian.
Sell the integration of your media properties that you own and consistent branding messages. I think that the traditional AdWords vendor is not involved in the radio, the TV, the cable, and the website properties. So by offering an integrated digital strategy that plays into the other services you offer, again, I think that will differentiate you and tap into the angst, the pain that the dealers are feeling today with, I would call, mass generic AdWords offerings.
So our digital diagnosis starts with Google, but there's so much more that we're going to walk you through how to do. Number two is to spend some time in a website review. Here's California and Louisiana mega dealer Troy Duhan again.
You know, what dealers have got to understand is when I first started selling cars in the early 80s, we had one showroom floor. Today you have two. You have a virtual showroom floor and you have a dealership showroom floor. And I can remember my dad and people I worked for, man, let me tell you something. There was no trash on the front of that showroom floor. And your tie was tied and your shoes were shined and you know, your breath was fresh. I mean, you looked like $1 million. And I remember that. Now, why would we not have the same mindset on our virtual showroom floor? That website needs to look like $1 million. And it needs to have chat. It needs to be partnered with media partners. It needs to be partnered with third-party lead providers, because more and more consumers are going that route to get data than doing the old route of coming into the dealership.
Again, this isn't about you, the AE, going to the dealer site and making your recommendations. Frankly, these dealers are spending a lot of money with automotive web development experts, so your opinion isn't going to carry a tremendous amount of weight. So what we want to do is share with you a very robust website review tool that you can use. It's called SiteBeam. And this is a highly detailed site testing tool. It's going to check everything from spelling to cookie law, and you'll get a comprehensive report from the website when it's all done. So we ran a report for a local Dodge Jeep dealer right here in Sarasota. Not only did the report reveal technical issues, things like broken links and missing files, but it also rated the site's social interest by following links back to Facebook and Twitter. It also gives you a mobile preview of how the site displays on a mobile device. Again, that's called SiteBeam at sitebeam.net. And here's a 21-page report that I printed out for that dealership. Imagine showing up at the dealer with a 21-page report that is a non-biased website review, giving them a lot of detailed information. And Jim, you're allowed 10 of these free reports per email address.
And what I would do is I would use that report in two ways. If I had a great relationship with the dealer already, you might give them that report and say, hey, I found this, thought you might be interested in it. If I didn't have a great relationship, or I was trying to break through at that dealer level, I might use that to help develop some strategies to just pull a page out. I just did a presentation where we just took one page from that site report and just said, this is a page that's relevant to your situation. Again, if you don't have that dealer and you dump this on them, I think that comes across as part of that presumptuousness that Jim Ziegler talked about as well. Now, when you look at the dealer's website, a couple of other things to check in. Number one, do they have live chat? Live chat is now huge because of that instant gratification of customers who are going to the site. So is the site enabled with live chat? You want to know that and be able to talk about that with your dealer. Pay attention to whether or not after you've been to their site, you're retargeted. That's when you'll go to llbeam.com, but your dealer's ad, or they will show that you're on Facebook now where they're retargeting pretty frequently. Are they retargeting? If they are retargeting, and you sell that, that gives you an opportunity perhaps to talk about your competitive solution. If they're not, a lot of dealers are moving in that direction. So again, that may give you an opportunity if you are part of a company that's selling a retargeting program. And there's another opportunity, and as we were putting together this conference, I think, Tom, I think you would have to say this is probably like one of your big aha kinds of moments.
Yeah, it sure was. This is what I got most excited about of all the things we're going to talk about today. Look, as an industry, we have an asset that is being completely underutilized. It's an asset that we already own, and it's an asset that the dealers already give us credit for. And that asset is video.
How does a dealer make their website more engaging? Well, the answer is video. Dealers are horrible at producing video. When I talk to dealers around the country, when I tell them the 10 primary website pages that need video, everyone shakes their head. But if I call those dealers back a month later and say, did you get those videos? Almost uniformly, they're like, no, we didn't get it done. Well, Joe's videographer friend didn't show up. And I said, why don't you just hire a professional? Like, yeah, I got to do that. I'll get around to it. But it's not a priority. It's not part of their daily blocking and tackling. Broadcast and cable operators live in the video world. They know what professional production is. Plus the rich content of what's going on in the community and co-op and sponsoring. Well, if they brought these assets, these technical expertise to the table, dealers will listen.
Wow. Position ourselves as the digital video experts. I love when he says, you know, Joe's buddy, the videographer, never showed up. No, but we're the digital video experts. So I asked Brian, I said, should we consider packaging in video into our comprehensive proposals? Would that make sense? Here's his answer.
So if cable and broadcast operators who are masters of video could provide them with a set of videos to merchandise their website, a set of videos that they could use and optimize on YouTube. That same footage can be reworked for video pre-roll opportunities. And here's what I would say. Tell the dealer that these video assets will not only be utilized on your proprietary local station network, but tell them that you're a Google certified provider, and these videos can be syndicated on YouTube and pre-roll clips on YouTube. Give them the full Monty. Give them everything from a video marketing perspective that they would have expected on traditional broadcast television, but in a digital world. This is an easy entry point because out of all things, dealers look at cable and broadcast operators as video experts, get in the door there, and then see where you go.
There you have it. Get in the door with video. That is a powerful, powerful way to crack the code of the digital dealer. Jim?
When I watched the Brian Patch interview, and he said that the most visited page on a dealer's site was the used car inventory, and that if you really wanted to improve SEO, one of the things you do is always have a video on that used car inventory. You know, welcome to our used car inventory. Here's what we believe about used cars. Couldn't we produce that as part of it? And so when we talk about a custom solution, so it's not about selling pre-roll. It may be about producing video that's used for pre-roll, used on their site, used with YouTube, and is used in our core products. I think that's a really great insight. Well, okay, we're continuing our digital diagnosis, and the next place to check is their social media, especially Facebook. Now, this is not whether or not the dealer's got a Facebook page. Everybody has got a Facebook page. What we want to have you look at is how are they using that page? Here's Troy DeHaan.
I think that social media is not a way to sell cars, it's a way to win friends. It's a way to share with people how and why this dealership is different, why we do give back to the community, why we support the local church, why we feed local kids, why we help shelter homeless, why do we give back to the kids? Why at Christmas do we buy bikes? When you do those events, social media is a way to let people know that this dealership is different.
You know, I think a lot of the folks that we talk to think that Troy DeHaan's approach is right on. Using social media to talk about how wonderful we are, the kind of thing that you might say is called polishing the apple. But you know, there is a role to play in social to expand your community. One idea that I love, I've shared this with a couple of dealers, and if they're not doing it, they go, wow, that's cool, is to make sure every time you do a delivery that your salesperson grabs the customer's phone to take a picture. New car, salesperson, and the customer, and have them from their phone post it immediately to their Facebook page. Courtney Cole is using a similar idea at Hare Chevrolet in Indianapolis.
So, I mean, the biggest thing is to interact. We try to take a picture of almost all of our customers when they purchase the vehicle. It's great if you can tag them. You know, they're not always going to be, one, wanting the pictures, or number two, wanting to be tagged. But there's a lot of them that will play right along. And that way you get the circle of influence, is what I call it, of all their people seeing where they purchased a vehicle and your folks seeing where that you have new people buying it. And then if the salesperson tags himself also, you get 3 different lines of folks, and then you get some other people liking. It's just a viral effect.
Dealers love ideas that have been used successfully in other markets, and they love reps who bring them those ideas. Well, here's one. I think that it may not make you any money, but when you bring this idea to one of your clients, they're going to look at you and go, wow, that person is sharp. Here's Troy DeHaan with a cool idea.
Now, this is a great media broadcast partnership idea where you go into, like here in New Orleans, like a Tulane University, and you reach out to the juniors and seniors with a summer internship where we bring them in and we teach them how to sell cars. A lot of kids are graduating from college and they ain't got no career. But what's amazing is I hired 10 kids this summer. Just take a guess at the average number of Facebook friends these juniors and seniors had. And I can promise you it's in 4 figures. They're coming to you with a database of potential customers. I had one kid with 9,000 Facebook friends. I don't even know how he did it. The average we had was 1,100. So obviously, I've got to change the way I hire and train because where the industry is going is more of the virtual showroom floor.
No, that's a great idea. So we're going to move on with our next step in digital diagnosis, and now it's time to look at a dealer's involvement with mobile. For our pre-visit digital diagnosis, we want to do that same Google search exercise, but now on our smartphone. We want to search make, model, city from our smartphone. And remember, retargeting doesn't yet work on mobile. Well, we interviewed mobile marketing expert Derek DiCarlo. He's the vice president at LSN Mobile, and he offered us some great mobile insights. Let's listen to Derek DiCarlo.
You're talking about a high-touch product, so let them see it, let them feel the product, whether that's through slideshows, whether that's through video, and then growing on that is where can I get the car, right? So locations or whatever, right? And then also having the click-to-call feature, so they click on the number, immediately dial, have the mapping feature, drive them right to the dealership. And then again, driving that through to an inventory of what can I expect when I get there.
Well, we spoke to dealers about mobile. They get really excited. Here's what Jeff Gherkin from San Diego wants to see.
I had some friends over to watch the game, and as I looked around the room, everybody had their iPads out or their phones, and they were either on a sports site watching the stats of the game, or they were looking at their fantasy football leagues and seeing how many points the receiver's getting them, and so it's really become a multi-screen environment, and being there and or both places at the same time, I think is great reinforcement for somebody who's trying to, get a product exposed.
The ideal, they pull it up while they're watching it. That's the best, and we can get that.
Yeah, that's that multi-screen presence that, frankly, we should be striving to provide. But we have to be careful about mobile. Watch what dealer Troy DeHaan is all excited about when it comes to mobile. Take a listen to Troy.
Apps. Apps, from a dealer's perspective, apps are so important in the next decade because you've got to be on that consumer's mobile device or you are not going to get their attention.
Apps, apps, apps. That's what Troy gets very excited about. But listen to our mobile expert, Derek DiCarlo. This is what he had to share.
So car dealers love apps. Oh, I have my icon right here. Look, it's my store. Isn't that really cool, right? If I'm in the market for a vehicle, I'm not going to download your app. Okay? So don't think of apps as a lead gen. Don't think of them as an initial sales tool. The person's going to download that app is somebody that bought a car from your store. Right? They're going to use it for service. They may use it for other means. My lease is coming up with other products, that kind of thing. So the delivery for dealers in the app space has been wrong. Right? They think it's a great way that people are going to come through and buy a vehicle. No.
So keep Derek's warning in mind the next time your dealer gets all excited about selling apps. They won't sell about having an app. It won't sell a car for them. Jim?
The last item on our digital diagnosis checklist is one of the biggest search engines, YouTube. Here's Indianapolis dealer Courtney Cole talking about YouTube and its impact on her business.
The more YouTube videos we can get out there with good content, I mean, for example, 2013 Chevy Silverado Indianapolis. If we can put a good video out there, we can be on the first page of Google right away and not have to deal with all these other folks. Because, I mean, obviously YouTube is owned by Google, and it pops to the top the fastest.
The more YouTube video that you have, the more your SEO is advanced because Google, of course, owns now YouTube. So this is a big, big deal. And it sort of works with what Tom was sharing before about using video as a point of entry. Video, video, video. And every time a dealer goes to a conference, they're hearing people like Jim Ziegler.
Experts today agree that about 85% of all online content in the next 5 years is going to be video. You know, whether it's YouTube, Vimeo, or whatever delivery method you're using, we're delivering video to the consumers as opposed to flat text messages. That is so super successful.
So again, as part of your digital diagnosis, before you meet with your dealer, do the same search we talked about earlier. So now go to YouTube and type in make, model, Kia, Optima, Sarasota, and see how your dealer ranks or whether or not others are going to show up in that level. Again, this then provides perhaps some way you can deploy some of your video that can make a difference for them. So does the dealer have video posted to their competitors? Brian Pash lives in the world of dealer AdWords. But we think it's an idea here that's really huge, and Brian thinks it's low-hanging fruit for us.
Since in this audience we have many people from the broadcast and cable industry, I will tell you that video pre-roll retargeting and just retargeting in general is a very cost-effective way for dealers to get their brand message out in the zero moment. So if you offered video pre-roll and retargeting services to dealers, this would be, again, I think, considered in your wheelhouse, meaning you create maybe a half a dozen 15-second pre-roll messages, professionally edited, and then managed in their local market to show on the YouTube network and your proprietary assets. And the cost per click, the traffic that's driven, and more importantly, the brand awareness in the zero moment is really easy to document. So if you are not offering a video pre-roll package, a comprehensive video marketing package, well, I think that these are some low-hanging fruit that dealers will embrace and that you will have some credibility when you go in with your sales team.
Again, Jim, what Brian is saying is position yourself as that digital video expert. Put the packages together, tell them we can put your YouTube videos together, etc., and that's the low-hanging fruit.
So here's another idea that has delivered tremendous results for Troy Duhan. Let's hear again from him.
Me and my father, we would argue. He'd say, son, it's cheaper to keep them. And when I went through this last recession, my guy was my father, a man of wisdom, because he's right. When you don't have the normal budgets that you're accustomed to spending because you're trying to watch every penny, what my father was telling me was get into your database. Get into the consumers that already like you. These are consumers that bought from you, they service with you, they like your service advisor. Reach out to them. So we've done a lot of email, video marketing that we've actually utilized TV stations to come in and produce high quality commercials that not only that we would show on TV and cable, we would shoot those to our database. And it was amazing the results we got from our database email marketing. It was historically when you send an email blast out, you get lucky if you get a 7% open response. We were seeing when we first started close to 60 to 70% usage. People were opening them up.
Wow, 60 to 70% video email. So there you have it, 5 critical areas of digital diagnosis that you can research before you ever show up at the dealer. Let's recap. We've got Google to determine the SEO and SEM effectiveness. You now have a website audit tool that's non-biased and can offer a great review tool for you to take to your dealers. Social media review to see how the dealer is using Facebook as a marketing tool. A mobile review of the dealer's presence. And finally, a look at YouTube to discover if there's any video strategies. Jim?
You know, there's another overlooked opportunity in the dealership, and it lies in the back of the dealer's showroom. Here's former dealer and now Jim Doyle and Associates Senior Consultant, Pat Norris.
When's the last time that you've met or introduced yourself to the service manager or service director? My guess is unless you had your oil changed at the dealership or you got your car washed, you didn't. Yet these are some very real, undiscovered opportunities for your digital products. The service parts and body shop have their own budget to work with from the dealership. In addition, they have manufacturers co-op, and they get co-op oftentimes from the people that they buy their filters and their equipment and their chemicals from. So there is a budget to work with. Secondly, most dealers, service departments utilize the manufacturer's co-op programs primarily because it's easy. It's a turnkey program. It's almost always direct mail or email marketing. And for the service manager, again, it just becomes an easy thing to execute. However, they're not very happy with the results when you typically ask them. The third thing is that the service department usually is not working with the dealership ad agency and or the dealership possible digital marketing agency. No one ever approaches the service manager and director and wants to find out what their marketing goals, their marketing needs, and what their marketing desires are. So there's a great opportunity for you to go in there and talk to them about your behavioral and contextual targeting. Of course, video would play a great role for the service department, your email campaigning, Facebook campaigning, text campaigning, and obviously during campaigns that they run surrounding, winter prep specials, spring get ready for vacation specials, and other campaigns they run for brakes and tires throughout the year. A great way to talk to them about your mobile and your web banner advertising. So the next time you're at the dealership you're prospecting, make it a point and go back and introduce yourself to the service manager, the service director, the parts manager, and body shop manager accordingly, because I can assure you there's gold back there in those departments for you.
Well, and welcome, Pat Norris,
Thank
live.
You.
Thank you so much, not only for joining us today, but also for your expertise as we've been putting this together. So I want to, before I got a bunch of questions, but I want to ask, so I'm a cynic. Are you really calling on a dealership service manager? I mean, has that ever worked? I mean, when you have any success stories with that?
Well, absolutely. In fact, two success stories I can relate are this. Number one, Bill Doherty Kia, who's one of our dealer experts today, runs a pretty successful campaign 2 or 3 times a year where he actually emails to customers that have not been to the dealership in the last 6 months to 18 months with a 50% off oil change special and a 20-point safety check, calling it Safety Saturday.
Oh,
he
good idea.
Always fills those up, and those that can't get in that particular Saturday, he offers the opportunity to come in at later dates. So he wins back customers that may be defecting and again finds additional work in the process too. And if I may, one more I think that's pretty cool. Shared a success story actually by a dentist in Texas that when he had openings in his appointment, he had empty chairs effectively, he would send out a text campaign or text message to the patients of his that have opted in saying the next 5 people that respond will get a free exam, free cleaning, 50% off, etc. Well, he will fill those up very quickly, and those that continue to respond, he offers some type of additional discount. Well, this dealer was smart enough to say, hey, that'll work for me because empty service bays, like empty dentist chairs, means no revenue.
Right.
So he'll send out a text campaign to his opted-in customer base saying, hey, we've got 5 slots open on Thursday. Those that take advantage will get a 50% off oil change coupon and a complimentary car wash. Very successful stuff.
Or you could go to the service manager and say, hey, if you ever have a time when you've got capacity, we'll do an oil change special, and we can post it on Facebook, on our Facebook page. We can put it on our website. We can do,
so many things
that
can be responded quickly, be put out there quickly and responded quickly to the dealer is really key, and it's appealing to the service department.
Okay, so you and I first met when I called on you a number of years ago. You've been 3 years since you've sold your stores.
Correct.
Has the business changed?
It's changed a lot. In fact, actually, I think the thing that is probably most interesting is going through this process of putting the show together, as well as talking to dealers all over the country, is the fact that most of these products never existed 3 years ago.
Most of the things you're looking at.
Most things we're looking at today in the digital realm didn't even exist as a way to generate leads. And interestingly, just recently talking to a dealer in a fairly large market, his comment to me was, well, Pat, I see less and less showroom traffic. However, I know I'm getting more and more web traffic. And his concern is that he really felt he's behind the game and doesn't really know how to get there. If I was a dealer and I didn't think I was at the cutting edge of what's out there available in the digital realm in which to execute to find customers, I'd be concerned.
I think that's a real issue, because I think if you're worried that your traffic is dropping and that the only place you're going to compete is online and in your traditional marketing, that's going to make, I mean, especially as a car guy, I mean, when you're so used to seeing, touching, turning over that customer, closing, I mean, that's got to be a little bit frightening.
Well, I think one thing to remember is I've learned to believe this, that in the digital marketing world, it's a lot like the game Monopoly. As much real estate as you own in Monopoly is how you win the game. In the digital realm, you better own a lot of digital real estate, otherwise your competitors will win the game.
Right, and with some of the tricks today that we've shared, there are some ways to improve how you occupy that real estate, even to do it in some ways that may not cost you a lot of money or may cost you less than your competitors.
Well, I would agree, and I think the fact that we've talked a lot about how video is an opportunity to get in the door with an integrated solution along with digital from the station really is compelling. And I think, again, dealers as a rule look for turnkey solutions. So if you can come with a strategy, repeat strategy, that integrates where we already see you, and that according is the video experts, along with a solid customized digital strategy from your station, you're going to win the game.
But I think you know, to sort of repeat what we were talking about a few minutes ago, I was thinking as I was watching this and the content that we put together that I remember when diagnosis was, you know, how much of your business is used, how much of your business is new, you know, how much grosses you having, what are your top selling model, and now we've just said to the group watching this that you better spend a fair amount of time before you have that meeting with a critical customer, really understanding what they're doing digitally, so that you can ask better questions. And so the idea of going in and just, you know, vomiting that, oh yeah, we have a digital solution, that's not the right answer. The idea of going in and saying, how important is that today to you? And, you know, how enhancement that is to Google, well, that then echoes right what they've just heard from Brian Pash or what they may have heard from a Jim Ziegler boot camp and makes them go, wow. And so then your solution becomes compelling. We can help you with that.
I would agree. In fact, you know, the last thing you want to do is to go in with, as Tom said earlier, capabilities presentation, because the dealers are aware of what digital products are out there and maybe to some small degree what maybe the station has to offer. What they want to know is, what do you have that you think strategically is a good fit for them to help generate leads? And at the end of the day, it's about generating leads.
And they're bombarded, right, by, I mean, and now, you know, the idea of Facebook and Google and Polk, that Facebook Polk partnership.
Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, that is interesting. But, you know, when they say, you know, they know 50% of the cars, you know, they know, you know, what I drive and now can layer to me or serve to me ads that are relevant to that. That's pretty powerful.
Well, it's very powerful.
And it's like the new shiny object that a dealer will go, oh, that's so cool. Right. You know, whether or not it works or not, they'll go, oh, that's so cool. That's already rolling out in some of the larger markets.
Well, it is, as a matter of fact. In fact, there are several companies, and I know that some of our station partners work with them, that actually can go in and look at where the universe of your Facebook fans, in terms of what their common interests are, and then as a dealer, you can play to them on your Facebook page. Again, I like what Troy DeHaan said. I think it's really more about telling the market, the community, who you are as a dealer and winning friends, not just quote unquote selling cars.
So I have to ask you, especially in the next half, we'll be talking a little bit about leads, and we talked about Jim Ziegler with your leads being farmed. When you were a dealer, did you ever buy leads?
I did buy leads. I bought them pretty consistently over a number of years.
Yeah, and so tell me about that.
What I found was what most dealers find is that, you know, there's at least a 20 or a 25% scrub rate. In other words, leads that really aren't qualified. For example, because you're forced to put in an email to get more information on a certain car doesn't mean you're not putting in mickeymouse@gmail.com.
Right.
Okay. So once you factor that 20-25% out, then the game becomes trying to convert that lead ultimately to either a phone call or, most importantly, an appointment. which ultimately turns into a show and then a sale.
Yeah, but 20 to 25% of the leads, and this is 3 years ago, go bad,
Correct,
right? Go bad. But you also said to me that one of the common issues is the same lead comes from different sites.
Well, that's
so
correct.
you've actually paid for it twice.
Well, or 3 or 4 times actually. As a matter of fact, if you're using multiple lead providers, and we talked about affiliate lead sites, you may be getting the same customer over and over again, which you're paying multiple times for.
How much, the big players in this space are AutoTrader and Cars.com. They're not the only players. Car Gurus now is just exploding on all. Dealix, yeah.
KBB,
KBB, AOL, Yahoo have auto products.
Correct.
And most of those are getting their leads not from the dealer, but from a farm, right?
That's correct.
The Cars.com has farmed that lead out.
Well, those leads can come from people that are looking for car insurance, who've had a car accident, that are inquiring about, maybe an automobile trip somewhere. And so those leads are fished effectively off the internet, aggregated and then sent to the dealer as quote unquote viable leads. And that's where that 20-25% bad lead scrub comes from.
Okay. But I've got 2 questions about leads, and then I want to talk about something else that's really important. And by the way, your questions this afternoon, in the back half, we'll be bringing an opportunity for you to ask your questions of Pat.
Please.
And we'll put up later on again the 800 number for live questions and the email, which is, I think, digitaldealer@jimdoyle.com. So feel free to bombard us with your questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can in the last part of our time today. Not right now, but in the last part. So how much are people paying to AutoTrader? AutoTrader, Tom and I were pulling some numbers. It's like a $12 billion business. I mean, I don't know how big it is. It's like obscenely big.
Right.
How much does it cost you as a dealer, or the dealers that you know, to buy leads on AutoTrader?
The packages vary, but very typically that cost is somewhere between $2,500 to $10,000 a month. Some dealers elect to pay by the lead per se. That can run $15 to $25, or they just buy a package that says for $2,500 I'll get 150 leads provided this month.
So almost exactly like pay-per-click. You can buy 2 models, right?
It's really the original model for pay-per-click. Effectively, is paying per the lead provided.
So paying for the lead.
Correct.
Yeah. So if a dealer is spending $2,000 to $10,000 on AutoTrader or Cars.com, most dealers don't use both, or
many dealers will use both. One way to think of Cars.com is sort of replace the old, classified ads in the newspapers.
Right.
AutoTrader, much the same way. And then there's a whole plethora of other sites that are out there. Cars tends to be the most popular, but as we learned earlier from Mr. Ziegler, is that there is this brewing controversy that says they're farming those out to affiliate sites, and thus effectively stealing your customers away.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the second half, and really go even deeper with that, because I think that's really a powerful thing. But I want to just introduce something we'll talk more about after the break. Profitability of a lead, your site versus a lead that comes through one of the third-party providers?
Well, overwhelmingly, the lead that comes directly to the dealer, the lead that comes as a result of the dealer's advertising to say, come to my site for more information, is overwhelmingly the most profitable lead that closes at a higher percentage than those that come from third-party sources, including even the manufacturer.
Yeah, so the number one source of leads to a dealer is always the manufacturer's site. So Ford.com sends the leads, but they're required, especially in metro areas, to send that lead to the
lead goes out to multiple dealers.
Multiple stores, and then they're following that up on that. And then the minute you get in that negotiation deal, that's going to take your profitability down.
That's correct.
Right. And then you'll get leads organically through your own stuff that you're driving people to your own site, and then the third-party lead providers. But of those, the profitability less at the provider?
Well, quite frankly, the third-party lead providers, if you're closing somewhere between 3% and 5%, you're doing a good job with the third-party lead providers, and because those people are being, frankly, grabbed from multiple lead providers, it's the lowest gross profit by far. It's the race to the bottom, effectively.
Yeah, you talked about that,
right.
I think previously. That race to the bottom is a big deal.
It's huge.
Because on those sites, I've got to be the low-cost provider, or else I'm not even going to go to the second page.
Well, it's much like being on Google. If you're not on the first page, if you're not on the first page of either a Cars or a vAuto or a KBB, you're invisible, as Mr. Ziegler would say, and that's all driven by price.
Right.
No one sorts highest price to lowest price on those sites.
So today, 3 years later, I get the sense you would not be a heavy user of these third-party sites?
My choice today would be not a user whatsoever of third-party sites. You're forced as a dealer to utilize the manufacturer sites, and there's some viability to that clearly because they're still your manufacturer. It'd be everything I could do would be to drive leads to my site directly, so that I could have them work with my BDC.
Yeah, and something you used a term that I want to be sure to make sure I clarify. I hear this term BDC all the time. For the people who don't know what we're talking about there, what is a BDC?
A BDC is the Business Development Center, or in some cases called the Internet Department. Effectively, this is where the rubber meets the road. At the end of the day, this is where you will be held accountable. This is the group of people that are assigned to capture the initial lead from the dealer, to process it with the information the customer wants, and then ultimately turn that lead either into an appointment or certainly a show to sell the car to the customer ultimately, and then to continue to follow up with them until such thing happens. So BDC is Business Development Center, and again, I have to suggest strongly that you get to know these people because they clearly are where is the metric you'll be held accountable for.
So you know, whether or not, and Business Development Centers, am I correct, typically manage both the phone leads that come in and they manage the web leads that come in and the provider leads?
Primarily web,
yeah.
And more dealers are turning the phones over to them, yes, but primarily the web first and foremost.
Right, and am I correct, companies are now actually using they're outsourcing BDCs sometimes to markets 100 miles away, 50 miles away?
That's correct. In fact, I've done some consulting in the past with an outsourced BDC, Business Development Center, that actually took the inbound dealer internet leads and phone calls for that matter, processed them through certain scripts, and then generated the appointments and followed up with them if they didn't buy a car to get them to come back to the dealership.
So is it possible that, you know, as a passionate Red Sox fan, I'm making a call about a car in New England and I'll have somebody answer the phone going, "Hi, y'all." I mean,
very possible.
Or do we have to be a little bit careful about that? I can't let this segment end without asking you the most important question, which is, you own 5 stores, I think, when I met you. How does somebody get to a Pat Norris? You know, sort of, and you were a little bit more accessible than most, but the guy like a Troy Duhan who's behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz.
The person that ultimately got to me with broadcast TV, and I was the poster child of too many glasses in the day, was the person that came to me with a strategy. They had a sense of what my business was. They had a sense of what specifically my store had been doing in the market, and they came out there with not, you should be on the Ice Capades that's coming up. They came with a very clear strategy how I could market a particular brand of mine. That opened my eyes up, and we ultimately met, and the rest was history.
Well, and I think that the whole idea is that the package seller is dead, and so it's unbelievably important that people bring that customized solution.
I would tell you, Jim, the package sellers died a long time ago. In fact, frankly, if you don't come to any business, certainly in the car industry, which are savvy marketers, then you're not going to get very far. You're certainly not relevant.
Any tricks about how I might get to you, times of the day to call, ways to leave a voicemail?
Well, never call on a Monday, never call on a Wednesday, and never call on a Friday.
Other than that, what can I call?
Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, you've just increased the number of calls the dealers are getting.
I would also call mid-morning or mid-afternoon.
Okay. Now So take the rest of the week off.
Yeah.
So what? No, I understand Monday. Why Wednesday?
That's golf day. That's when we're out playing golf on Wednesdays.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I grow up, I wanted to be you. Why not Friday? Oh, then we're going to the lake that day.
We're going to the lake that week, exactly. No. Why not Monday? Because Monday is our meeting day.
Yeah.
So.
No.
Well, it's a true story.
I'm only slightly convinced that you're facetious here. I think you probably are right.
I'll never tell.
You know, outside business hours, sometimes Saturday morning, different times to pick up and catch that decision maker.
Don't call first things in the morning, and don't call before lunch and things like that. And also, when you call with something that says, as Tom talked about earlier, that hey, look, I have something that has really been very powerful in another market of ours that we'd like to give you first crack to take a look at. If you have 15 minutes, let me just come out and share it with you, and you get first shot.
You know, and I think that is probably the most most powerful insight. You have to send, when you say, we have something that has performed in other places, we have something that's worked in other markets, that is the most powerful way you break through to any decision maker, I think.
And we'd like to give you first shot.
Yeah,
The takeaway close.
We'd like to give you first. And I think dealers of any group that I've ever met is more intrigued by stolen ideas than anybody. I mean, I feel like all clients are, but dealers especially.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all about good ideas. I mean, we all understand that, there's no such thing as a bad good idea. So if it's something that's worked somewhere else, minimize the risk and let me give it a shot.
That's exactly right. So, well, the first half of our presentation today is now complete. And we hope that you have heard some very important things, some concrete tools and takeaways that can help you in your digital sales effort. We're going to take a brief 10-minute intermission. And when we come back, we'll spend the second half of our show talking about what we think is a very critical issue. How do we protect our core product? During the break, here's John Hannon. We're back in 10 minutes with more.
Wow. We're already at the halfway mark, and this is officially the intermission. The 10-minute countdown starts now. I promised you a sample video of TV Sales 101, but before we roll the clip, I want to speak specifically to the sales managers watching today. The most important part of the success of any organization is the leaders. And to make sure you become a better leader, we offer the best sales management training in television. It's called the Sales Managers High Performance Boot Camp. Join us in Tampa, January 26th through 28th for 3 days of powerful speakers, motivation, and instruction on how to build and create momentum with extraordinary sales teams. The time you spend at this training will dramatically improve the way you lead and manage. But don't just take my word for it.
Boot camp is awesome.
Fantastic. The pace is great, the energy is great, the insights are terrific, but beyond that, I love the actionable items.
Inspiring, motivating. I thought it was off the charts. I really did. It was outstanding.
It has been a long time since I have felt this energized, and this has been probably one of the best resets I've had in a couple years. I'd recommend it to everyone that people find the resources because this will pay off multiple times over.
Total breath of fresh air.
Very, very engaging, very, very fun. Just a refreshing way to look at life and the way we do business.
It was amazing. It was not only eye-opening, it was mind-opening. It was just tremendous. I know it's going to have an impact on our team and the direction that we go.
I have tons of notes, tons of ideas, very tangible things that I can do to make more money and help my team be more successful.
A lot of information, helpful, take back to the sales team to motivate.
I think every level of the organization should get a view of this.
Welcome back to TV Sales 101. This next module, I hope will be a lot of fun for you. I know it will be for us. We're going to talk to our team, our presenter team for this program. Tom Ray, John Hannon, three folks who have spent a lot of time in this business. I wanted to call the panel three old guys, and they told me there's only one old guy on the panel. So two pups and an old guy. Talking about how can you just accelerate your pace so that you can get started in our business and be successful as quickly as you possibly can. Guys, if your best friend comes into the business and we're sitting around having a couple of cups of coffee and talking about what does it take to be successful, what advice do you give? What would you say, Tom, to somebody who's just getting started?
Well, first of all, I'd give them a great big huge congratulations. It is an amazing business, and I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to get started with everything that you have available to you. And so with that, I might offer a word of caution and say, don't get overwhelmed. I see a lot of people who start in this career who just get overwhelmed by all the information that they feel that they have to know before they can go out and take any sort of an activity. And they get paralyzed by that. So I would say, while there is certainly plenty to learn, it'll come in time. And in the meantime, take action. Nothing beats getting on the street and learning from your real teachers out there who are all those wonderful accounts and prospects that you'll interact with. So I think my first words of advice would be, don't get overwhelmed, don't get paralyzed with fear. Just get out there and don't be afraid to make a mistake or two. That's the best way that you're going to learn, and the more you do it and the more quickly you do it, the better you'll become sooner.
But it is confusing, right, guys? I mean, to start in all that language and all the terms and everything else that we're going to be sharing as we go through this program, it can be a little overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it can be overwhelming. But the quickest way to get over that feeling is to go out and just do it.
Yeah.
Just fight through it. Make sales calls. Make as many as you can. I used to walk through the sales floor as a sales manager and say, look, I bet the clients have air conditioning at their place too. You aren't going to find any clients under your desk in here, so get out on the street, knock on some doors, make some calls.
Is that true? I mean, I think that massive action creates massive results.
No doubt.
And I think so many times we tend to reflect or think or prepare or get ready. Sometimes that's driven by our perfectionism to do it right. It's like, 80% of done trumps 100% of not done. Get out, do stuff, see people and make mistakes. People will make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You guys never made any mistakes?
More than I would like to think about, but certainly. And the more you're out there, again, the quicker you'll learn, the better you'll get. So what I would do in the meantime, as I'm out there making mistakes and just being active, though, then in the other time of the day, read, 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 read. We never stop becoming students,
right.
At least the very, very best.
Yeah.
Feed the brain. And in fact, I remember early on in my sales career, I kind of alternated. I would read a sales book and then a marketing book, and then maybe a piece of motivation, and then start the cycle again. But those are, understand the skills that you need to get better at. You need to improve your sales skills. We constantly need to be better marketers, and we always need that little boost of motivation. So read, 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 read in those downtime.
Don't you think there's another place to learn from, which is your clients?
Absolutely. I think they are at times our best teachers. If we sit here and talk about our stories from our sales days, that's what we'll reflect on is, somebody taught me a lesson and it was somebody that we encountered out there. So one of the primary skills, I think, to jumpstart your career in this is to constantly improve your listening skills. Right. The better listener that you can be, the quicker that you'll achieve success in this industry.
I heard a technique that I had forgotten until we're now brainstorming about this, that a guy who used to produce 60 minutes like shows, interviewing bad guys, said a great technique was after the person they were interviewing answered, don't immediately ask the next question. Because nature abhors a vacuum and still the people. He said that was where you get your most honest sound.
Isn't that
Same thing I think is true when you make a sales call. Don't feel like you've got to be thinking about the next question and just really get good at listening. I think it's key.
I think when you're first an account executive in the media world, people don't want you to fail, right? So you go and you see a client and you're making mistakes and you're stumbling over yourself. The clients want to help you along. They remember when they were first in a new role or a first job. So don't be embarrassed by that. And the only way you're going to be able to grow is to get some bruises. You learn from the experience.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to say to people, can you tell I'm new?
Sure.
Because
Absolutely.
they can.
Yeah.
They do. And not be afraid of that. Be real, I guess. Maybe that's what we're saying.
Well, I think it's certainly better to say, I don't know, when you don't know. There's nothing worse than trying to fake it when clearly you don't have a handle on what the client's looking for. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I really don't know. But here's what I promise you, I'll go find out and I'll be back with the right information for you.
If you were going to predict success, are there things you look at with account executives? I mean, things you say, boy, you better have these couple of maybe personality traits or characteristics.
Endurance would be first and foremost.
Endurance.
I mean, can you put in the hours and the time and the physical and mental requirement to make these calls. Nobody likes to be rejected. I mean, do we ever like to get smacked in the face with no's? No. But you're going to get a ton of those before you get a yes. So,
especially when you're new, because most of the people you're going to be working on are if they wanted to be on the air, they'd be on the air. So
and you don't know the cues, and
right,
you don't know how to return. So yeah, you've got to be able to get through the bad days in order to have a good day.
Yeah, Tom and I have a mutual friend who, talks pretty candidly about her first year in this business, and going home almost in tears some nights. And yet she, got through that and got off on an amazing career by the time she was finished with her career in the business. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, what about, but isn't it also true that the combination of drive and empathy are really important? Drive is that push to make those extra calls and not come back to the office and not fold on a couple of bad calls and find an excuse to come back. And empathy is the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Not sympathy, but empathy. Sympathy is, I know business is bad, I'm really sad. Empathy is, I know business is bad, I've heard that. What do you think we could do about it? And that's when you measure that with drive.
Yeah, I think so. Two more real quickly. I think just over-the-top enthusiasm. I see a lot of careers get jump-started and make it through the first hurdles of the beginning of the career on pure enthusiasm. That's what, you're going to need that. And then the other, I think, a critical element is natural curiosity.
Welcome back to the second half of Driving New Automotive Revenue, Cracking the Code of the Digital Dealer. A special thanks again to the many cable companies, broadcasting groups, and state associations for their support of this conference. By way of reminder, the takeout video is available for download after our program today. The link is jimdoyle.com/11-12-13. Let me give you that again. jimdoyle.com/11-12-13, and the password is Digital Dealer. We are absolutely loving your Twitter and Facebook comments and staff pictures. And again, our hashtag is Cracking the Code. And we're still taking your questions by email at digitaldealer@jimdoyle.com. Or you can call 1-888-710-7234. Enough housekeeping. It's time to get back to tips, secrets, and immediately executable revenue ideas. Here's Jim Doyle.
It sounds like, here's Johnny, here's Jim. Hey, John, thanks so much, and welcome back, everybody. In that first half, what I walked away from that thinking was, there's so much in there that can help you just really impress your dealer with stuff that no one in your market is really going to know. Knowledge is power when you're out on a sales call. But if you thought our first half gave you insights, this second section is absolutely critical. I believe that we have to protect our core customer. Let me just share with you a story that we just heard 2 weeks ago. Midwestern market, dealers spending $75,000 a month. That's decent money. But $50,000 of that money goes to digital. And they're only using one core product vendor, and they're getting about $7,000 a month. But you know what scares me? That's almost the situation where, as Pat Norris described, I talked about it in the intro, where we become almost a footnote to what is primarily a digital opportunity. So we have to get to the decision maker, and we have to resell our product. This may seem weird to you, but you can't take anything for granted today. If they've been in business with you for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that's no guarantee that you're going to be, that they're going to continue. I shared that story of that dealer that I know who we built his business and he's thinking about moving away. So we've got to get to the decision maker, and using generals to generals can sometimes be the most appropriate way to do it. But when we get there, this cannot be a social call. What we believe today is that we actually have to resell the power of our product. What I'm going to do in the next few minutes is outline a couple of presentation strategies. I've got an opportunity to be in front of my dealer, and what am I going to say? And this is not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 1 or 2 or 3 or a combination of 1 and 3. But these are some significant things based upon our conversations that we think are significant. So presentation strategy number 1 is the power of our product to create brands. What's a brand? A brand is when you're known in your market as the low price leader, as the biggest selection, as the truck king. And nothing builds a brand like the power of our products. And brands are big. Brands are why we pay $17 for a Starbucks coffee, or we want to own a Harley. And brands are, when there's 7 cars on a website, I look favorably on the one from the dealer I know. Brands are powerful. And Troy DeHaan believes this as well. Let's roll the next cut.
The broadcast media is still required to build awareness. How do people know about a new product coming out? They watch the Super Bowl. They watch Monday Night Football. They watch whatever, they watch WWF wrestling, whatever it is. If I am producing, I'm Chevrolet and I got this new truck coming out, well, I still have to build awareness. Now, historically, what would happen when they see a TV spot, they would call a dealer. That's changed. Now, they email a dealer for request.
By the way, that cut will be on our takeout reel so that you'll have that as part of the number of cuts you might insert if this is going to be the presentation that you make. I'll share one quick story. There's a dealer in Indianapolis, Bob Falcone, VW store there. And a number of years ago, we came up with this idea that he would be the guy who planted his flag as the no dealer fees. We don't charge you any dealer fees deal. I heard this story in the last week. He was checking into a flight at the airport, and his Delta agent said, "Oh, you don't charge any dealer fees. We won't charge you any baggage fees." This is a guy who's got a brand in that market that you could not build in any other way except for the power of our product. So that's presentation strategy number 1. Number 2 is, again, you're going to look at me and think you're whacked. But we need to constantly resell that we can deliver sales this weekend. Courtney Cole believes it. Let's roll her clip.
Don't discount that traditional media. I still think the world wants to switch to the internet, and believe it or not, that a lot of folks come from a long ways for us, not necessarily because of the internet. And maybe they did get on and saw our webpage and saw the inventory we had, but I would still say traditional drives non-traditional in many, many cases.
If you say, what is our future? I think it's in presentation strategy number 3, which is to really articulate the beautiful combination of traditional media and digital. This is truly a situation where 1 + 1 can equal 3, and especially as we deploy some of our digital assets to help that client. So this is so powerful to look at the combination. Tom shared a website before. Let me give you another one. If you haven't used it, I think a lot of us have. Go to Alexa.com. And Alexa, Google dealers are just obsessed by analytics. And so we went to Alexa.com. One of the coolest things about Alexa.com is it will tell you where does their search traffic come from. In Sunset Dodge's case, over, I think, 55% of their traffic comes from some version of that dealer name. So in other words, people are not going to Google and saying, where do I buy a Dodge or where do I buy a Jeep in Sarasota? What are they doing? Is they're going to Google and they're typing in, Sunset Dodge. So as powerful as some of the stuff that we talked about in the previous section is, don't forget, there's still a compelling argument, a powerful argument for the power of driving someone directly to their website. And that organic search, which is me using Google in the same way that I used to use the phone book. Instead of looking up a phone number, now I just type in the name of the business. That's still critical. And in this case, you'll be able to look through Alexa and say, what percentage of the people who went to Google came with some basis of that dealership's name already? It's going to be typically 55, 60, 65% will do that. So Alexa.com, it'll give you some weird ranking like your website is the 7th millionth ranked website in the world. But the key thing you want to look at is what are the search words that are driving. And so in this case, in Sunset Dodge, you can look at what were the names of that deal that were coming in. Pretty cool deal. Brian Pash talks about this as well, and this combination of the two. Let's roll the next cut.
There's ample research that shows when a strong branding and traditional media campaign is integrated with a digital campaign, the impact in the zero moment is even greater.
But whatever you do get in my opinion, especially with the traditional media or even with the internet, you've got to go in and you've got to dominate that piece.
Well, we do need to have the mass media presence, no doubt about it. I mean, the voice has to get out to everybody in the county, and there's simply no other way to do that than through broadcast TV, for example. But at the same time, we're challenged to find the specific avenues to talk to that BMW, which is, buyer, which is probably only 3% of that mass population. So you go hunting with a shotgun in one hand and a rifle in the other, and it's that balance that becomes an art, I think.
I have to tell you, I watched that quote and I went, doesn't that describe what the world is today and what is the opportunity that we can help a dealer? I don't go just shopping with a rifle. I don't go just shopping with a shotgun anymore. I go hunting with a shotgun and a rifle. I think that's one of the most powerful quotes in this conference. Presentation strategy number 4, well, this won't surprise any of you who have heard me speak before. I think that every proposal has to include success stories. Bill Doherty.
I want to see proven results, and that helps me make my decision. A typical presentation where, this is what we do, and it's a binder, and we go. I mean, to me, that doesn't help me. I'm a great copycat, so show me where it's working, and that'll help me make my decision fairly quickly.
I'm always wanting to know what the guy that's doing who's their best client and what are they doing. I mean, for me, that might get my attention. And I hate when they drop names, but at the same time, I do want to know, our best client has done this, and here's been their results. And, if you try this too, here's what you can expect. And it doesn't even have to be in this market. We got a guy in Michigan that's doing this with our sister station.
If there was a resource that if you don't have, we need to build, I know a number of the companies that are watching this today have done a great job with this, but we have got to aggregate our success stories. Not just, I spent this much money on cable and my business is up by 2% or 10% or 20%, but I spent this and this is what happened and this is what happened to my market share, so that we're able to present those to the dealers. Dealers are thieves, and Pat Norris alluded to this in the question. He didn't allude to it, he said it in the question and answer period. They want to know ideas that have worked in other markets. And you can't bring an idea from your own market, because I think that crosses some boundaries that are awkward, maybe unethical, but I can bring ideas that have worked in other parts of the country, and it's a tremendous resource to be able to grab those. You've got to be doing this and doing this on a regular basis. Every presentation, whether it's for a digital product or for our traditional core media, has to have success stories. As Pat said earlier, that's what takes away risk. So that's number 4. Number 5 in our presentation strategies is something that Pat referred to in the Q&A before, and I think it's a critical part of any presentation for the power of our core business, and that's our ability to drive traffic to the dealer's website. And that produces the best lead. Tom?
Yeah, let's listen to Brian Pash.
Yeah. Thanks for
the best lead that a dealer can get is a lead from their own website.
There you go. So, if there's one universal truth that I'll call it out of all of the interviews that we did with not only all the dealer experts and all the dealers themselves, it's that they all said the best lead is the lead that comes directly from their website. Take a look.
The lead that comes directly to the dealer site is the most valuable lead to the dealer, because they're telling the dealer, you are my first choice. I thought of you first.
Well, I think if you talk about the funnel, I think the closest to the bottom of the funnel is the store website. And then you move back upstream a little bit to the manufacturer, and then you know, in my opinion, substantially upstream to the third-party providers.
Absolutely, your own website produces the best quality lead without a doubt.
Clearly, a lead that comes from the dealer's website is a much stronger, much more qualified, relevant lead.
Well, there you have it. It's unanimous. It's that organic traffic that beats third-party lead providers, that beat even leads from the manufacturer, even search-driven leads. The direct-to-dealer lead is clearly the best lead. It closes at the highest percentage. It delivers the highest grosses. It's that holy grail of the BDC that you heard Jim and Pat talk about a little bit earlier, that lead that comes directly from the dealer website. Jim.
So here are some of the 5 presentation strategies. And again, I want to just emphasize, you have to get to the dealer. Don't be in denial. And when you get that opportunity, it's not, hey, let's have lunch, or, you know, I want to just say hi and say thank you. Today, that worked for years. But today, we really believe that what we're advocating in this conference today is that you have to resell the power of your product. So number 1 is resell your ability to build brands. Number 2, don't take for granted that they still believe in you. Bombard them with success stories of your ability to drive traffic, drive sales, increase market share. Number 3, make sure that you sell the power of 1 + 1 = 3, traditional combined with digital. Number 4, success stories, success stories, success stories, success stories. In fact, we put the way we're doing our sort of takeout thing, it's really not a takeout thing this year, but at the back last 10, 15 minutes of this conference today, we'll have all of some of the powerful video clips here that you can insert in your own presentations because we think that this is so powerful. You know, it's like level 1 persuasion is, I tell you it was great. Level 2 perhaps is a slide that says it's great. But level 3 is when somebody like Troy DeHaan says it. And it gives you so much credibility when you bring those into your presentations. And the ideas from other markets, you heard the dealers talk about how important that is. And then finally, let's never forget where the money is. I said that customers were driving these changes, but gross is the thing, you know, money, profit for the dealer still is the primary motivator. And just to drive home through the use of Alexa and other tools, how much of that traffic goes directly to the site, how we can help that process, how we can help them build a brand becomes a critical sales approach today. Well, as the car business and the car buying process has changed, I think that raises the question, does our creative messages have to change? Is TV still about price and payment? Brian Pash doesn't think so. And here's his rather long explanation, but we wanted to show you this in full because remember, this is a guy that dealers are listening to.
There are many dealers who are using television for price and payment offers. These are limited time, and of course, there's a mindset out there that says, yes, those stimulus ideas will drive people to the dealership right away. But the research that I've found is those price and payment offers drive people into the internet, into the zero moment, and they're doing further research. Where I think that broadcast operators need to educate dealers about the importance of a branding message that then follows through their digital properties, meaning instead of just saying to a dealer, yes, we'll run your price and payment spot, and yes, we can run some price and payment banners, what are we doing to educate the consumer that you are the authority in the marketplace, why you as a dealer are the best place to purchase a car that's not price and payment? So the zero moment obviously has taken some dollars away from the traditional broadcast medium because they have not educated dealers on their role in the zero moment. And secondly, they've allowed dealers to continue practice things which are not working like they used to. Price and payment offers still drive more people to the internet to see if that price and payment is a realistic price.
You know, with all due respect to Mr. Pash, What is wrong with a price and payment ad driving people and driving more research? We still believe that price payment drives interest. We're not alone in this. Courtney Cole thinks so too.
I like to say there's 2% of the population that's in the market all the time, and those are the folks that are going to research everything and going to be in the internet site. But I'd like to think that if we run a great ad with a good deal, that I can force some other folks into the market.
And you know what? She's not alone. Jim Ziegler, the alpha dog, highly opinionated, talking to hundreds and hundreds of dealers every year, he thinks so too. Watch this.
I want call to action advertising, to be real honest with you. I don't care that you've been our family's been #1 in the market for 48 years. I don't give a damn. You've been in the market 48 years and you're sitting by the fireplace with your dog. That doesn't sell cars. What sells cars is not screaming and yelling. You have to have that hook. You're not going to overwhelm them with power advertising, but you're not going to put them to sleep with, we're good people. Everybody doesn't care that you're good people. Consumers are not loyal to any one dealership. We have not in today's, that zero moment of truth moves all over the place. And it's impossible to buy a bad car. There are no bad cars. They're all within decimal points in quality of each other. So, telling them our car is better than your car, no, who cares? The Honda people, the Toyota, the domestics are as good as the imports anymore. It doesn't matter. What matters is who you're buying it. When I consult with a dealership, and I'm consulting with some of the power players, we're selling 4 things. We're selling person, product, place, and then price. Price is not the ultimate sales thing that closes the deals. We're closing person, product, place, and then price. Why would you buy from this dealership? The why buy here story is the biggest message we want to send to the consumer. What's different about us? What's good about us? And not we've been in the market, we're #1. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that we have a shuttle service that'll take you here. They want to hear that I've contributed to the little league teams. They want to hear that we have been involved in the community, that we're emotionally, historically involved in your community. We care about you. We're not a big corporation with a bunch of mercenary managers we brought in from somewhere else that don't care about you. That's what we're selling.
So the creative debate rages on. So you have certain experts saying price and payment is over. I don't think we're quite ready to abandon that strategy. So while creative continues to evolve, indications are that there's a very real change happening with the target as well. Here's maybe another aha moment that we encountered. Here's Jim Boyle, not Doyle. Jim Boyle, take a listen.
Just recently we had an article in Automotive News talking about young people. They love to come to the beautiful dealership and look at all the cars, but they get turned off if they have to talk to a salesperson. Well, I don't understand where we're supposed to go with that if we're just going to be order takers. But I guess the good news for guys like me who can't change as fast as we should be is my buyers are still 54 and up. So those people do like to talk to salespeople, and they like to get the car they want, and hopefully our salespeople are nice to them and provide what they're looking for. I think once they've arrived at the Toyota store, they've made the decision they want a Toyota, and our job is to find the one that they actually want.
Did you catch that? Our buyers are 54 and up. Did you see the report that came out in August of this year titled "Boomers Have Replaced Their Children as the #1 Market for Autos"? More specifically, that 55 to 64-year-old age group is now the cohort that's most likely to buy a new car, and that is a University of Michigan transportation research study. Isn't that interesting? So let me ask you, when's the last time that you responded to a dealer avail that asked you to run it on 55 to 64? It's not happening. We're still getting avail requests, 2549, 2554. And if the product is new, then that means that the target most likely to make that purchase isn't even being addressed. And here's the rub. while the research now shows that the boomer as the target that dealers should be targeting, manufacturers and dealers alike are still enamored with reaching that younger buyer. Yet the younger buyers, harder to get financed, and maybe not the best prospect. And here's Jim Boyle again. Take a listen.
You know, the 25 to 54 is that market we're always, that sweet spot we're looking for, but we're on the older side. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids don't have jobs getting out of college, and you know, that's all part of the deal, qualifying for financing and all these things. These are components that are necessary for our new car department, for sure.
Red Sox fan indeed. So in fact, you know, consumers aged 55-64, they had the highest rate of vehicle purchase in 2011, while the younger age groups had the lowest rate. So again, really re-emphasizing that it's that aging boomer consumer that is the target. There is a dramatic shift happening, and some of the manufacturers have figured it out. Watch this.
I read an article, well, I read the majority of an article online about how older people are becoming more and more antisocial. So I was really aggressive with my parents about joining Facebook. My parents are up to 19 friends now. I have 687 friends. This is living. What? That is not a real puppy. That's too small to be a real puppy.
Toyota Venza. Keep on rolling.
We love that commercial. There's the millennial who says, this is living. I've got 600 friends on Facebook. My parents, they have what, 19? Come on. Yet it's the parents that are out being active and doing things. So I urge you to have this moving target conversation with your dealers. You have to be engaged in this dialogue. And if they're not advertising to that 55, 64-year-old, they may be missing the boat, particularly when it comes to new. And think about it. This bodes well for us. Why? Well, because how do you reach that boomer consumer? Well, I know of two ways: with television and with the internet. According to a Google study from earlier this year, the average boomer spends 15 hours per week watching television and just under 15 hours per week online at home. So, Jim, the target has shifted.
So if I have a lot of Facebook friends now, I'm not cool? I'd like some more, cool. You know. Find me. I'd love to have some more. You know, there's one more startling sort of revelation that we discovered while we were preparing for today's event, and it has to do with this sort of brewing controversy about third-party lead providers. For years, the likes of Cars.com and AutoTrader, I think especially this is Cars.com and now Cars Guru, have been major players in generating leads, and Pat talked about that before. But there's some growing issues surrounding those lead providers that I think you need to be aware of. Issue number one is it working? Pat talked about that in the Q&A. Here's what Bill Doherty had to share about that.
Do you buy a lot of those third-party leads other than what the manufacturer provides you?
No, we do not.
Okay. Have you done it in the past, though?
We have done it in the past, and what we've found is the quality of the lead is oftentimes weak, not scrubbed properly. We'll have a customer who we contact, and they were looking for a vacuum cleaner, and their lead came through as a car. So somehow that wasn't our strong suit.
Okay, so here's how you use that. As part of your discussion, when you get that chance to be in front of the dealer, you want to ask them a question. You know, I went to a conference, I was part of this, it said that a lot of dealers were finding that they weren't getting the productivity off their third-party lead providers. What is your experience with that? Is it working as well as it did? Taking the information you've learned here and then transferring that into a question, not a statement. Issue number two with third-party lead providers is, could that money be better spent driving traffic directly to their site? Jim Boyle had a great insight about this when we interviewed him. Let's roll that.
The problem I found with is, you know, in V-Auto, all those things, you know, you can easily get trapped into a race to the bottom on the price. And I can't go buy these cars. These cars don't exist. And, you know, our customers want to be treated fairly, and they want a nice car. And, you know, if you bring them in on a car that's just not what it appears to be, where are you going with that? They'll leave.
Yeah, he's basically saying that the low-price car that shows up on that site, he can't find those cars. So he can't compete on a price basis with a car that he's proud to sell. Therefore, as Pat said, he's now the second or third page down, and he's invisible. And that doesn't produce. And he'll get the leads because you pay, for a number of leads, but they won't be the quality leads, or will they turn into business for him. So the number 3 issue with these third-party providers is the unintended consequence. And we shared a little bit about this earlier. But I want you to listen to Jim Ziegler sort of really explain a little bit about how this is working. Roll that.
You got all these vendors stealing the local search from the local dealers. And they're redirecting that traffic elsewhere to competing dealers. Even if you subscribe to them, chances are they will divert your traffic elsewhere because they're selling that same lead to multiple sources. Here the dealer thinks they are the only dealer that received that lead from Cars.com, when in fact Cars.com has parked it on 200 or 300 additional websites. And we call this lead farming, where they're farming leads because their site doesn't generate enough traffic by itself, so they have affiliate sites. Money going back and forth, they're paying for this. And these affiliate sites are advertising to your consumers in your market. Now, when that consumer hits on an affiliate site, I call them bandits and pirates. When one of the bandits and pirates picks it up, they do indeed serve that lead back to Cars.com, who in turn serves it to the dealer as if it were their own. But in the meantime, that little bandit site is sending multiple additional units from competitors for that same consumer to look at. A blatant double cross. Now, we've recently brought this to the dealer's attention, and it's really created a firestorm recently that if I were selling TV advertising, I could capitalize on that.
Well, there you have it from the alpha dog himself. If I were selling TV advertising, I could capitalize on this thing that he calls lead farming. So Jim, let me demonstrate what's going on for us here. So let's take a look at this graphically, okay? Imagine this, you've got your local Toyota dealer and they've got a piece of their inventory, let's call it a 2011 Camry, and they pay to place that inventory on Cars.com. Now, Cars.com, completely unbeknownst to the dealer, takes that inventory and places it then on their affiliate sites, things like TrueCar, Cars Direct, KBB, etc. Okay?
And Car Gurus, which is the one you'll show
Car
up on
Gurus,
the search.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, all these affiliate sites are, again, as we showed in the first half, outperforming the local dealer in SEO. Right. So these are the sites that are higher ranked. So now here comes the consumer, and she's shopping online, and she sees that 2011 Camry and says, yeah, I'm interested in that. So the affiliate site then sends the alert to Cars.com, who then lets the dealer know, hey, somebody took a look at your piece of inventory, and they served them that lead. Right. And all is good. Except for the fact that now those affiliate sites know that this individual, this consumer, is in the market and knows now what type of vehicle they're interested in. So they start serving additional ads, and they say, hey, if you like that 2011 Camry, you might also be interested in this 2010 Honda Accord. Maybe here's a Nissan Altima you'd like. Here's a Chevy Impala. And they're serving ads to this consumer, and these ads are the inventory of that Toyota dealer's direct competitor. So that's what's happening. You got to be having this conversation with your dealer because they may or may not be aware that this lead farming is going on.
Yeah, you know what I think they're aware of is they're well enough aware of their inventory to know the inventory is going out to other places. And actually, they probably look at that and go, well, how can that be bad? Right. Cars.com is shipping my inventory out. I've got more exposure, more pieces of the monopoly board, as Pat said, until what they miss is the back piece. And you know, what Ziegler was talking about is if you look at your own inventory and you click on your own inventory on Car Gurus from a website, from an email address.
Exactly.
Now you'll see how many times within minutes you're starting to get an email from a competitor about a comparable kind of car. Yeah. And now I paid for this whole experience if I'm the dealer.
I paid for it, exactly.
I paid for it. And so that's why Jim Ziegler says if you were an AE, you could make money with this. Well, lots of changes, lots of opportunities, and we're sure that you've got some questions. As you take a minute to collect your questions, we've already got so many, we wanted to do one last thing that could help you and add some value. And so we asked every one of our dealers, how could you resist this opportunity? What do you look for in a media partner? Let's roll that tape and listen to their insights.
I want to see proven results, and that helps me make my decision. Or something so out of the box thinking that it would separate me from the pack.
Well, they need to know my business a lot more than I need to know their business. And so I look for somebody who takes the time to understand not only the brand I represent or the geographic location of the store, but the purpose of the sales force, and all the ingredients that bake this cake. Your industry is blessed with a lot of really cool people, a lot of people that have great personalities. They're fun to be with. They're positive people, and it's always a pleasure to be with those people. But that's almost commonplace today. So you need a little meat to get through the door with.
What makes a great media partner to me is someone who understands my business. Don't come in and try to sell me TV and you know nothing about my business. Bring me somebody that understands what the auto industry is going through. Make that rep become a student of the business. It's real interesting. All they got to do is go online and look at the brand or the manufacturer that the dealer represents. Know a little bit about what I do before you come see me. Number two is, let's come up with a campaign that utilizes your database with my database. Let's just don't rely on reach and frequency, and don't come in and try to sell me reach and frequency. Why don't you come in and let's talk about a campaign that incorporates, hey, what we bring to the market through all our years of broadcast and your database. That's why I like the email video component of it. And number three is, after the schedule's over, then bring me back, or let's talk about how did we do, what were the sales results, can we quantify the results, how many people came in from your database. There's many ways for that rep to come in and say, you know what, this is what we did, this is your sales results. Let's set goals together. Let's make it a partnership instead of just sell them another schedule.
Yeah, a lot of the things that you heard us sharing with you today. So now it's time for Q&A, and this is your opportunity to pose some questions to our experts here. You can still call us if you'd like, and that number is 888-710-7234. And our email address for questions is digitaldealer@jimdoyle.com. So let's get started. Let's start with a question that came to us via email. And this is interesting because this plays off of, Jim, I think a lot of what you shared today. If we get an appointment with the dealer general manager, should we come in with digital ideas or first perform the CNA?
Well, what we're describing as the CNA, or digital diagnosis, is now done way before you've had the meeting. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you don't do diagnosis at the meeting itself, but you want to do diagnosis before you go in that frames your questions. At the point at which it is time for the presentation, which in some situations may be in that earlier meeting or in a subsequent meeting, that's where I think one of the things we're advocating today from our feedback from dealers is don't throw up on them. In other words, the idea of bringing digital ideas scares me. The idea of bringing a selected digital idea that becomes your point of entry. You talk about it in your marketing seminars all the time, Tom, point of entry, singular point of attack. Right. I find the same thing's true in sales. Sure. Get in the door with something, wow them with your ability to do something, and then expand it beyond that. Or, one or two somethings as you begin, but not 15 somethings. Right. Our companies have given us so many tools now, and that becomes both a strength and a weakness both. So I think digital diagnosis, some in-person diagnosis, and then pick your lane as those things are confirmed by your diagnosis call. Okay. Pick a lane.
So we haven't gone a complete 180 away from the CNA.
Oh my God.
No, not at all.
It's just a different approach to get there.
And today, remember I said don't wing it anymore. Yeah. So it's that damn it, you better be armed with better questions.
Yeah.
So 90% of the sales reps who go out to meet a dealer, their idea of diagnosis is, how's your business, how's the market right now, what are you doing for advertising?
Right, got it.
2% rise to the level where they're truly seen as customer focused. And the whole thing today is to give you more information to help you be more customer focused, so that you can ask better questions that separates you from everybody else.
Right.
Not everybody's going to play in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you still do? I think that's the issue.
Let's ask Pat, who's been performing at such a high level for us over the past few years with dealers. You got any really good killer digital questions, digital diagnosis questions when you're face-to-face with the dealer?
Absolutely. I think it's imperative you do a couple of things. Number one, besides all of the setup initially in terms of what they're doing, at least ascertain as much as you possibly can their SEO and SEM efforts. Once you're there, you know, Mr. Dealer, Ms. Dealer, are you buying third-party leads? Who are they from? How many do you typically generate per month? Do you feel those are quality leads? And what's your conversion rate? In other words, how many of those leads do you ultimately convert to a sale? Powerful questions to ask. Additionally, if you get into the social realm, you want to ask, I see you have a Facebook page, congratulations, ha ha ha, you have 871 friends, but let me ask you, what's the purpose of your Facebook page? What is it that you're trying to accomplish with that? So you really want to drill down as to what are they trying to accomplish with their digital strategy? Is what they're doing effective? And I think very importantly, what are they ultimately converting today, which will tell you what metric you'll be held by.
Got it.
And so let me give you an example of how those questions might lead to me as a sales guy.
Sure.
So they say, the purpose of my Facebook page is to demonstrate, as Troy Duhan said, that we go to church, we serve the community, we do all these cool things. Perhaps then when I come back with a specific solution, I may bring an element that does that to 80,000 people, not 800 people. Perfect. I might talk about how that's important in that process. All discovered because of Pat's question about how are you using Facebook Pay? What are you using Facebook for?
Yep, got it.
Listen to answers, then bring back solutions that may help them solve that problem.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
Excellent. Based on that digital diagnosis, all those steps that we shared as well. Okay, excellent. So Randy from Lexington is on the phone with us and has a question. Randy, what's your question today?
The question I have is, do you have a list of these success stories? Because I agree 100% that is important.
Randy, you're going to see a whole bunch of them in the 15 minutes that walk out of here, all of these clips as well. And then I just encourage you, you remember the Kentucky broadcasters and thank them for being part of this. I just encourage you to reach out to other markets in your company, other players, and just collect these. They're out there. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, but you have to go in and just be able to and be prepared to do that. So, yeah, thanks for the question,
Yeah,
Randy.
good. Here's an email question that came to us. How can I get an agency? This is from Houston. How can I get an agency to see the value of TV when they consistently avoid TV and buy radio for frequency for auto dealers?
Well, we've got radio people watching, so we're not going to trash anybody here today, but I would tell you this. I think the clear answer to that, Pat, I think would agree with this, is that it's not the agency making the final decision.
Exactly.
The dealer ultimately makes the decision there, so I think it's important that the dealer become part of that conversation surrounding solutions that the TV station can bring to the table.
And it's interesting that I think as the world changes, that money that sort of moved automatically every once in a while may not move as quickly. So we better build a why our media presentation loaded with success stories so that when I get an opportunity to that dealer in Houston, I can really say, look at what other larger market dealers are doing with the combination of the digital and our product. And that's the most compelling thing that I can ever bring.
Yeah. And maybe this is where the digital video expert comes into play. Maybe that's the opportunity to plant your flag there.
Certainly could be as well.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question, email question. This is from Amy from Bethesda. What is different today for an AE that wants to be a killer salesperson in the auto category versus 5 or 10 years ago?
I think Troy Duhan said it best, as well as several of our other expert guests today, is know the business. Don't walk into a dealership and not have some understanding of how the car business works, specifically how does the dealership play in the market. There's so many reports from cross-sell to registrations you can get from your state associations that tells you where a dealer stands in terms of the number of vehicles that they sell versus their competition. How powerful would it be to walk in and say, I see you sell currently 11% of the market. It looks like some of your competition is selling 12 and 13. We have solutions to help you get to that 13, 14, 15% penetration mark.
Got it.
I'm gonna add to that. What a great question for Amy. I want Amy on my team. I love that kind of that kind of thinking. I think it's all about the stuff we talked about today. Pre-call preparation. You're going to win or lose in this new world, not on what you do when you're in front of the client, but what you do before you've gotten there.
Right, got it. Good stuff. Okay, guys. Jim, Hazard, Kentucky. When a dealer's at the top of the Google search, do they still need paid search?
I would have to say that yes, there is definitely a place for paid search. I would also then hearken back to what Brian Pash said, is rather than using a cookie cutter approach, say from some quote unquote manufacturer approved agency, maybe work with a boutique agency or specifically your TV station and challenge them with bringing you a creative, unique, cutting edge strategy to utilize paid search.
Or is it possible that in the Hazard Kentuckys of the world, that might not be as significant as it is in Cleveland or San Diego? So I think you'd have to see who else is on that page. You know, if you're one of only 2 Chevy dealers in the market and you're dominating that page with your unpaid, that may not be as relevant as what might happen if you're in San Diego with Jeff Gerken.
Well, it may also come to play, where do you want to reach out as far as your market goes? Right. If you're in Hazard, Kentucky, and you feel you can reach 30, 40 miles out to bring people in with a good offer, strongly believe in the offer, geographically target your search, that would be a better strategy.
Okay, cool.
Good. Good. Here's an interesting question, and this has popped up a couple of times, but we're going to take Kyle from Billings, Montana, his phrasing. In our market, there's many small used dealers. Many of them seem less motivated to try new things to create business. How can I motivate the used dealerships?
Well, you know, I sound like a broken record here. The number one motivation of behavior is the track record of other people. So you go in and say, you oughta. How many times a day does somebody hear that? You know, I mean, that doesn't work when your spouse tells you that. That doesn't work in any situation. But when you say, you know, honey, if you did this, here's what happens. That's really. I think it's using others in your company. Using other vendors and other resources to say, here's a success story from this market, used only. Here's a success story for this market, used only. And as you know, there's some powerful, powerful stories out there, really powerful.
Yep. Good. Good. This one comes to us from the staff in Harrisonburg, Virginia, via Twitter. Are there any tips or tricks to YouTube posting? What should the content be?
You know, we always said that when we were doing this conference that there'd be one question that we'd look at each other and go, I don't know. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to my heads at Harrisburg. Yeah. I'll tell you that Jim Ziegler did give us a hint. In fact, he gave us an amazing hint. He said that the mistake that most people make on YouTube is in the scarcity of the tags they put under that video. So he said, if you remember in his interview, he said, so you want to tag city, model, county, your competitor's name, your competitor's counties, so that every time that video is there, that becomes the key words, the sort of words that you use to describe that video that now enhance its visibility on YouTube and therefore help your Google placement. Right. So how about that?
Yeah.
Well, Harrisonburg's playing stump the guys.
Yeah. Well, first of all, be there, be on YouTube is what we heard today.
But multitudes of tags.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And multiple content. Not only the individual inventory itself, but as Brian Pash would say, put your value proposition out there. This is what we're talking about when we suggest make yourself the digital video expert to go to your dealer and say, we will help you with your YouTube channel. We will make those long format videos for you, because they don't know how.
And plus we're going to produce the welcome video for that used car page, where Brian said, that's the #1 visited page, and video would just pop your thing. So
whatever you do, just make sure you have a compelling message in the first 3 to 4 seconds. Yeah. That'll buy you the next 5 or 6 or 7, and that's where you win the battle, is you get them through 10 seconds of video, and that'll buy off to your closing message or call to action, contact us, etc.
Got it. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. We have another phone call, and this is from Houston. I believe it's Bob from Houston?
Yes, Bob from KHOU. The question is there a typical ratio of a TV budget to a digital budget in a typical month? Thanks very much.
Great question.
That budget can really be all across the board. I'll share with you some of the more successful dealers will put somewhere between 65% of their budget into traditional media, primarily broadcast television.
And cable.
And cable, yes,
cable,
correctly.
yep.
Thank you. In terms of the visual aspect of it, they'll come back and support it with 25 or 30% in a digital play. And then they oftentimes, again, this is just from what I've seen in the few dealers I've worked closely with in the recent times, that they'll then augment that with radio and other ways to support event-specific campaigns that are happening.
But I think if you went to Houston and you did calls with Bob and his team at KHOU, you would find that ratio is like, I mean, you couldn't graph that because
it's everywhere.
And I think candidly, what it really depends on is what is their level of belief in that traditional product. So you'll meet somebody who, the dealer who was spending $75,000 and the traditional media was getting $7,000.
Yeah.
And then you'll meet somebody else who's spending $75,000 and traditional media is getting $50,000. So I'd be risky on a conference like this to say there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that.
Well,
I will tell you this. I'm sorry, just one last thing. Where they spend the money tells you what they really believe in. So don't ever forget, money speaks the truth.
Well, and you and I were having this conversation yesterday, Jim, as we were talking about this. So how do you approach that deal? We talked a lot today about the third-party providers. How would you approach a dealer who believes that it's working for him?
I've been selling a very long time. Pat's been buying and now selling a long time. I've had no success at all getting people to cancel something they think is working.
Absolutely.
Now, what can I do? I can plant a seed of curiosity. I might ask the question, we participated in this conference and they said this, but at some point, people are going to do the things that they believe in. Mm-hmm. However, I think Pat can probably echo this and knows so much about this. Any given month, every dealer I've ever called on has a whole bunch of things they're not sure of either.
I would say there's always that question mark. It's the old adage. I know that 50% of my advertising is working. I just can't figure out which 50% it is. And so to Jim's point, never go in and try to knock something that someone believes is working. Find out where they believe they're not getting the most success from.
Yeah. And it's like, don't call your baby ugly.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Well, I've got a few more email questions that are coming in from the team in Montgomery. In many cases, this goes along with budgeting that we're discussing. The digital budget is separate or different from the traditional budget. What's the best way to get both? Do we meet with different people? How do you attack that?
Well, the dealer ultimately makes the decision in this process, and even though they may have somebody who's a strong influencer, i.e. the business development center, BDC manager, or internet manager, the dealer's ultimately parsing that budget out. Co-op may have some influence on that, but at the end of the day, it's a strategy that's going to work regardless of how we break the percentages up.
Okay, good. Ed in Abilene says, what is the best way to approach that lead farming conversation? We can see how it could be a touchy subject for some dealers. Clearly, that what we've talked about today with lead farming is
and I think it's anytime you bring up information that is potentially negative, as a salesperson, the way to do that is, I was part of a conference and they shared this. What's your experience with it? You never want to directly say, well, you're doing this and you know what's happening to that lead? Because I don't know about you, but I don't react very favorably to that. So it's always about sharing what other people's experiences with. What is your experience with that?
Yeah, and what I would say to Ed is you have to download our takeout because all of that content is right there for you to have.
And then you've got a clip of another dealer saying it, which is maybe, or Jim Ziegler saying it.
Jim Ziegler. And Pat made an important point, and as we were compiling all the clips, talk a little bit about showing Brian Pash and Jim Ziegler and Derek DiCarlo to the dealers.
The point I wanted to make was this, is that, as I interviewed these various dealers for the program, and of course having spent 30 plus years in the business myself day to day.
Started when you were 12?
When I started when I was about 13, I think. I was a late bloomer. The point is that when I've asked the dealers the various questions, most of them had similar responses. So they get the pain, they get the challenge, and they get what's going out there. However, where I had my aha moments was listening to Jim Ziegler and Brian Pash and even Derek DiCarlo talk about some things that as a dealer I should be strongly considering doing, and those were a lot of aha moments for me from a dealer perspective. So I would just suggest that sharing the dealer clips is a great way to augment the argument as to why us plus, and that traditional media in combination with digital is the 1 + 1 = 3. But if you want to really get some attentions, it's those clips from Mr. Ziegler, Brian Pash, and of course, even Derek DiCarlo say, wow, that's something I maybe should think about.
And Ziegler and Pash are big names in the car.
Big names in the car business.
People know their names. They're speaking widely at those kinds of things.
They speak widely. Their blogs, their industry columns.
We were privileged to do this.
Yeah.
Well, boy, we could take questions for the next week, and we thank you for your questions. And as we've talked about, as we wrap up our formal conference, the best of our takeout is going to run. There's even more of that content when you download it online. And so those are the most powerful sound bites from our interviews to include, right with your proposals. I've just been told by my friend that the download is already online, so you'll be able to go right to do that. And some of this you can even include in a video email to get appointments with your dealers to help share some of this information. What a cool idea that is. And so we'll conclude today with the best of our takeout section, and be sure to download the whole entire takeout with all the bonus material when we get through. And the link is jimdoyle.com/11-12-13, and the password is digital dealer. So jimdoyle.com/11-12-13, password digital dealer for all of this content. Well, the question anytime you go through an experience like this is, what are you going to do with this material? In the introduction, John Hannon shared with you the motto of our company. It's been our motto for probably now 15 years, that says, training without action is entertainment. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have watched the show today, and we're so grateful to your companies and to all the folks for participating. And we've tried to give you techniques, insight, tools, free tools, and a wealth of information to help you sell more digital and to protect our core. But you know what? When it comes to sales, knowledge is not power. Action is power. What do we think you ought to do? Well, number one, commit to digital diagnosis. We've outlined a lot of ways that you can learn more about the dealers than ever before. Number two, customize your solutions. Number three, bring success stories. And number four, don't wait for bad news. You have to be on offense about protecting our core business especially. Story after story that we hear is dealers moving more and more money out of core and into digital. Now, that doesn't have to be your core, but this is one of those situations where being proactive is a tremendous business development strategy. Dr. Jim Davis, who I was privileged to do some workshops with when he was teaching in the business school at Notre Dame, used to say, if we fail to change, the world goes on. We just become increasingly irrelevant. This is a category where not changing is dangerous, because customers are driving a fundamental change in the way autos are being sold and dealers are marketing. And we need to be part of that conversation. We're so grateful to you again for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of our conference. Here's the last few minutes to just recap some really powerful content. Thank you very much.
The broadcast media is still required to build awareness. How do people know about a new product coming out? They watch the Super Bowl. They watch Monday Night Football. They watch whatever, they watch WWF wrestling, whatever it is. If I am producing, I'm Chevrolet and I got this new truck coming out, well, I still have to build awareness. Now, historically, what would happen when they see a TV spot, they would call a dealer. That's changed. Now, they email a dealer for request.
There's ample research that shows when a strong branding and traditional media campaign is integrated with a digital campaign, the impact in the zero moment is even greater.
But whatever you do get in my opinion, especially with the traditional media or even with the internet, you've got to go in and you've got to dominate that piece.
Well, we do need to have the mass media presence, no doubt about it. I mean, the voice has to get out to everybody in the county, and there's simply no other way to do that than through broadcast TV, for example. But at the same time, we're challenged to find the specific avenues to talk to that BMW, which is, buyer, which is probably only 3% of that mass population. So you go hunting with a shotgun in one hand and a rifle in the other, and it's that balance that becomes an art, I think.
I believe that digital marketing is here in your dealership whether you like it or not. The question is how well can you handle it, and how many deals are you letting go out the door by not handling it properly? You could have the greatest website in the world, but if nobody sees it, then it's not really that effective. So search engine marketing, search engine optimization, getting the right audience in front of your website, and then a call to action message on your website is equally as important.
Video is extremely important, and the Google research shows that video is one of the most effective mediums online to influence consumers to visit a dealership. So, for example, one of the most popular pages on a dealership website, believe it or not, is the hours and directions page. But if you visited an hours directions page on most dealer websites, they're really boring. Can you imagine putting a video on that page that says, "Hi, I'm Brian Pash, General Manager of ABC Honda here in North Plainfield, New Jersey." And then the General Manager gives their value proposition. And by the way, we are located off of, and they give some directionals. And when you visit our dealership, this is what happens, meaning explain the process. If another very important page to the dealership is their used car search page, it's the #1 page that's used on a dealership's website. There's no value proposition given at all. So, hi, this is Brian Pash, the used car manager at ABC Honda, and when you purchase a used car from ABC Honda, you get our Rest Assured package. That contains bing, 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 bing. And all our cars are, provided with a Carfax, a vehicle history report. Again, what's the value proposition?
One of the biggest things I say to car dealers is, you're using all these outside lead providers. You're using AutoTrader. You're using Cars.com. Nobody's really using Car Gurus. They're an intermediate site. But all these websites, Dealix, Dealer.com, all these sites you're using, you're paying a third party to grab your leads and send them to you. And the biggest problem we have is all of these people require that they have the access to the dealer's main computer, and they can extract your consumer information, not only on the consumers that they generated, but all of the information out of your computer. Now, dealers, this is wild. These people are building databases of your consumers out of your computer, and you paid them to do it, and then, like Kelley Blue Book is saying, find out what other people paid. How did they find out what other people paid? They took it out of your computer. Send people to your own website.
I think the biggest thing is you want to dominate whatever platform you choose, whether it's TV, radio, internet. And internet complements whatever you're doing. So the biggest thing I think that a store can do is make sure their Google ratings are good on top of having a great website, because the website is where your leads are almost all going to come through no matter what platform you're using.
Well, I think really it's two things. One is eyeballs, right? The most fundamental, right? They got to get that message out in front of them so when they're ready to buy, they connect with them. But the other is building that awareness when they are ready. So using digital, using mobile is part of their multimedia strategy. Television is very powerful. They use it in a certain form. What we've noticed is how they apply to digital isn't always the same. So a lot of car dealers will focus their efforts toward the latter part of the month with their sales and everything like that. But they use digital differently. They use it almost like a top-of-mind awareness or a branding tool, which is fine, but they need to be able to look at it more fundamentally, more dynamically around those key selling points. I have a new product. I have a new price point. Let me get that message out. Let me drive people into that store. Really using the different layers here, right? Which is use TV for the awareness. It's a great tool, right? It reaches a huge audience very quickly. Using mobile as the element that gets them in the door. Okay, so when they're in that on-air element, reminding them, hey, you can find us right on your phone. So when you're out shopping, when you're out running around, we're right here. Making sure they know what's there, a certain amount of utility. You can find our location, you can speak to one of our sales associates immediately, right? So having those direct connect tools, that's something that a lot of other media don't offer. Yes, you can find a map through the desktop site, absolutely. But then what do you do with it when you walk out the door? Got it right here on my phone, right? So using those tools, again, in a multimedia fashion is key. And that's what's really going to get the most bang for the buck.
Car dealers sell 2/3 of their cars after the 15th of the month. 2/3 of all sales are made after the 15th. That's just the way on big ticket items that money rolls through the U.S. economy. You're not going to change that. You're not going to force it. You're not going to drive anything different. So an advertising dollar spent after the 15th is 200% as effective as one spent before the 15th. And you're not going to change that. So the dealer does need an advertising presence in the first 15 days of the month, but they need to put 2/3 of their budget after the 15th. You know, it's got to be sensibly done, and I tell dealers, don't spread your advertising too thin. You buy a day, own the day. If you buy a day, own that day, where any other dealer would be embarrassed to put their commercial in your mix.
I remember buying a car back in the 90s and talking to the dealer about the vehicle, and I had information from Kelly's Blue Book or Edmunds.com or something like that. And the salesperson said, well, you know, the internet lies. Okay, immediately I'm gone, right? Well, we could argue the merits of how truthful the internet is or not, but just immediately discounting that medium is such a bad thing. So really recognizing what these are, so digital and mobile and some of these spaces is go where the audience is going. You know, we're in a multimedia world today. We consume media across a multitude of screens. TV is still very powerful and important. Digital in the desktop is still very powerful. There's all these new screens as well, but use them appropriately. Don't just take what you're doing in digital or TV and repurpose for mobile. Think about what that mobile experience is. We have an interactive, engaged audience. And by the way, that mobile phone is the one constant in our lives. It connects us to television, connects us to digital. When we're out and about, we have the phone with us. So the three things that most people walk out the door with, their keys, their wallet or purse, and their mobile phone. So think about that. So a lot of dealers will look at mobile and go, this is a toy, this is just small, it doesn't really matter. And so it comes across when they execute. You're back to the question of what are they doing well? Engagement, do quality creative, recognize this is a marketing medium. A little different, a little smaller, still a marketing medium, and use it appropriately.
Me and my father, we would argue. You know, he'd say, son, it's cheaper to keep them. And you know, when I went through this last recession, my guy was my father, a man of wisdom, because he's right. When you don't have the normal budgets that you're accustomed to spending because you're trying to watch every penny, what my father was telling me was get into your database. Get into the consumers that already like you. You know, these are consumers that bought from you, they service with you, they like your service advisor. Reach out to them. So we've done a lot of email, video marketing that we've actually utilized TV stations to come in and produce high quality commercials that not only that we would show on TV and cable, we would shoot those to our database. And it was amazing the results we got from our database email marketing. You know, what dealers have got to understand is when I first started selling cars in the early 80s, we had one showroom floor. Today you have two. You have a virtual showroom floor and you have a dealership showroom floor. And I can remember my dad and people I worked for, man, let me tell you something. There was no trash on the front of that showroom floor. And your tie was tied and your shoes were shined and you know, your breath was fresh. I mean, you looked like $1 million. And I remember that. Now, why would we not have the same mindset on our virtual showroom floor? That website needs to look like $1 million, and it needs to have chat. It needs to be partnered with media partners. It needs to be partnered with third-party lead providers. because more and more consumers are going that route to get data than doing the old route of coming into the dealership. The lead that comes directly to the dealer site is the most valuable lead to the dealer because they're telling the dealer, you are my first choice. I thought of you first.
Well, I think if you talk about the funnel, I think the closest to the bottom of the funnel is the store website. And then you move back upstream a little bit to the manufacturer, and then, you know, in my opinion, substantially upstream to the third-party providers.
Absolutely, your own website produces the best quality lead without a doubt.
Clearly, a lead that comes from the dealer's website is a much stronger, much more qualified, relevant lead.
I'm not really a shiny object person when it comes to advertising because I will buy for a year, and I'm probably, unless business is really off, I'm going to stick with that plan. Now, not everybody's like that. You know, because just because you have 1 or 2 bad months, I like it when that happens to a competitor and they quit and they go to the next whatever shiny object.
SMS text messaging marketing is a great tool, right? As you mentioned, people can utilize a short code. It's a 5 or a 6-digit number. They're utilizing, of course, a keyword in association with that. Keyword is your campaign. Ford, Jim Ellis, whatever that keyword is, they text that into a short code and they get something back. Again, kind of back to the lead gen, why are they doing that? What do they expect to get out of that? So whether it's information on the product, whether it's a contest, a service offer, different things like that. The great thing is it's sticky. So when they text in, they get a message back, it's on that device until I delete it. It doesn't go away on its own, I have to delete it. Okay? But also when they've texted in, we have their mobile number. We're building a relationship. So we have opportunity to remarket back to those folks and build that excitement and that interest level. So again, communicate why. We're back to very personal medium. Now you have my mobile phone number. What are you going to do with it? So yes, it can do some great things. It's a great interactive tool. Don't overdo it. Don't send them a message 3 times a week about product, right? Because you're not going to get the response you want. Find other things to do. Hey, maybe it's around tips. You know, it's